We are back with you here in Racing Post quarters in the capital. Racing Post Live this Saturday in conjunction with our sponsors Bet365. Myself, Dave Orton, delighted to be giving you the news and views. All the big races coming your way this afternoon. We'll be going to Lingfield, a couple of classic trials there. Ascot, culminating in the Victoria Cup. In fact, we go a little bit later than that. You'll be delighted to hear. And we even pop up to Haydock for a jumps race as well. It's the Swinton hurdle. Unbelievable. Jump season's just finished. Is this the real end of the jump season? Let us know you are out there. Viewer interaction makes the show. You know that. Great to have you back after a week off. We here at the Racing Post and indeed Betfair supported the social media boycott last weekend. It was the right message. Racing stands by that very much indeed. Okay, YouTube, like and subscribe. Get your comments in. The guys in the gallery, we've got the Lee brothers there cooking it up for us there. Cannot wait to see what comes our way. Who is on the panel? You can do that, of course, by Facebook Live and Twitter as well. James Millman, a debutant to the show. I've been looking forward to this, James.
Well, I hope you prove right, because it's good to be on. Stressful drive, because the trains were cancelled this morning. So
But you do, I mean, you come from the middle of nowhere pretty much, don't you?
well, down in Devon is where we train, but I was looking forward to a nice, relaxing train ride in, stay at the form, and then the old trains are cancelled. So stressful drive to central London, but now we're here, looking forward to it.
Feeling comfortable, relaxed?
Relaxed, yeah.
Happy days. Former jockey, of course.
Yep.
For your father, Rod. Everyone knows, of course, the Millman stable. Been around a lot longer than I have, that's for sure. And we remember some great horses from the yard. But you yourself rode over 100 winners. You had a decent record on Lingfield's turf track as well.
I did better than Neil Weather. I was pretty awful on Neil Weather.
You're very harsh on yourself, James.
I
mean, the stats are pretty dreadful.
Stats aren't great on Neil Weather. But on
excellent at Kempton, though, so don't do yourself down.
We're not too bad. It's quite a unique track. I didn't actually race very often on a turf track.
Yeah.
Which is probably in my favour. Lots of biases as well that jockeys don't always be aware of. And it's pretty steep down that hill. So
looking forward to great insight from you about what sort of horse we need at Lingfield. Get your questions in for James. We love debutants on this show. Let me tell you, he's not shy of opinion, likes a punt, and of course will be giving us all that jockey insight. Who have we got doing the trading day today for Betfair? From our own trading post, it is Graeme Rodway, back in the seat, the bear himself.
Yeah, back. I was meant to be here last week as well, and then got the message at the last minute. So you're getting to see quite a lot of me at the moment, which some people will be happy about and others probably won't be.
You are a little bit like Marmite, but the hair is looking sharp. So it tells you which way we're trending, in this year.
I'm so scared that it's going to close again, and I end up with that huge, massive mop. I think I've already seen my barber a couple of times.
Would it take at least 5 goes to get it to that standard, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you really have to get the big clippers out, and just completely do a job on it. But he did a great job. He's one of those Turkish fellas, the Turkish barbers where they do the singeing of the ears and you get the hot towel and everything like
Terrifying.
that. I love it.
Do you? Absolutely.
Yeah. Come out of there feeling like $1 million, Dave.
So cha-ching whenever you walk up, basically.
Are you one of those guys who always goes to like the local barber who just does the?
I have a chap that comes to me.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, we know. Listen,
so posh, Dave.
My hair's looked all right throughout lockdown, like another man, and cha-ching is right. We're hoping to make it that way with Betfair's Barry Orr, who's back for another stint on RP Live.
I certainly am. Good afternoon, gentlemen. It's going to be buckle up. Is the advice. 9 races, 3 race meetings. Going to be fast and furious, isn't it? Actually, good to see James there. I backed his last winner. Aishi, I think it was called.
That is a very, very well remembered, because not many would remember that. She was rated 48.
The last winner before you retired. Yeah,
it's always a good system.
3-1 chance that day. Yeah, it was a good system. One for your dad. You'd ready that up nicely.
There's a reason why Barry's been in racing so long, you see. He knows how to curry favour right from the start. Let's see if they get on so well towards the end of the show. Barry, we are now in the month of May, of course. We play for charity all day long. Take it away. Who is going to be our lucky recipient, we hope, in May?
Yeah, Bob Champion, who suffered cancer himself before he came back to ride Aldenese at the Grand National and win a Grand National, has done sterling work over the years raising money. I think it's coming up to the 30th anniversary of his diagnosis, and he's back walking the length and breadth of England to try to raise funds for cancer and cancer research, and he's doing some really, really good work. So we're going to support his charities for the month of May, and just fingers crossed, really hope we can get a few quid. A good pal of his, Jonathan Powell, an old doyen of the press room, is joining him on some of his walks, as is John Frankham. And you just like to raise a few quid, and so hopefully we can do it this for the month of May.
Yeah, well, Barry, you've had a fantastic 2021 so far. If you're feeling lucky out there today and you get a bid in, why not go to Bob's website, bobchampion.org.uk. You can show some love to Bob. And one of the most remarkable racing stories of all time, Aldenite, when he won the Grand National. OK, so Barry will be showcasing the functionality of the exchange if you're new to the show, but we will be having lots of fun in here as we go. A trade in every race, you don't have to play. It's all about safe gambling. And we're singing in the rain today, guys, aren't we? My goodness gracious me. I know it's been wet over with you, Barry, as well. And there's a big day at Leopardstown tomorrow.
Yeah, we've got the Derby trial, the Derrinstown Derby trial tomorrow. Some really top horses in there. We see the returning McSweeney, who won the Vertem Trophy last year for Jim Bulger. And a lot of talk about this horse. He's going to be taken on by a race-fit Bolshoi Ballet. And Joseph O'Brien has one in there at 16-1 Southern Lights that I give a bit of a chance to. They think very highly of the horse down on the hill. So, yeah, real cracking race. Might get a chance to talk about it later.
Yeah, we absolutely will. Anything for the Derby, no high definition, of course, today at Lingfield. That was a breaker. 18 races in the Dante on Thursday next week at York. Remember, that was one in July last year. But we think tomorrow the Derrinstown might be the key trial. A really deep race, that. Let us know who's going to win the Derby or the Oaks. We've got 2 trials coming your way. But we must go to Berkshire, to the what some people call the home of flat racing. Indeed, one of my favourite courses. I'm not too far away from there. It was absolutely tipping it down. How will the fillies cope in the 155? We've got Perfect Inch is a non-runner. Barry, what sort of betting heat has this been thus far?
Yeah, it's been pretty lively. Dream Looper is 3.75, bang on 11-4 on the exchange, 4.4 lights on. Conservatoire is 6.6 Poet's Lady, and 14.5 Bard Dem. I think the one thing here that really draws my eye is that the 3-year-old fillies get £13 from the older fillies. The horse I like in it, Thank You Next, top rated off 97 in this. Second to Saffron Beach in the Osho Sharp on soft ground over 7 furlongs. I thought that was a real eye-catching run. We've all know what Saffron Beach has gone on and done already this year. It never raised a gallop in the Spring Cup on the all-weather behind. Aldrama was third that day. Didn't let the form of the race down, obviously, but she was beaten a long way that day. And she was last to 3 in an all-weather conditions race for fillies earlier in April, around the 5th of April, over a mile. I think the 2 runs will take her, will have brought her on considerably. I think the softer ground is not going to be an issue for her. You need horses today who are going to go on that ground. And I think at the price, she's a knockout. There's 8 runners that was due to be in the race. There's only 7 now, but on 3 places, it's still paying 3 places on the Betfair Exchange. Always watch out for that when 8 becomes 7 or less. The exchange place market, the traditional place market, the terms don't change there as they do with traditional bookmakers. So what I'm going to do, please, Graeme, I'm going to have £25 on Thank You Next at 18.5 in the win market. And we're going to have £25 on her again in the place market. Like I say, the traditional place market, which is 3 places. In that market, she's currently trading about 4.2. We'll have 25 quid on her there as well. So, yeah, I think she'll run well on the soft ground. Conservatoire is the other 3-year-old filly in the race, and she's got really decent form on ground that's soft or heavy. She's won off 71 and 78. She's rated 86 now. She's a filly that has a big chance as well. But Thank You Next for me.
OK, then the outsider of the party for Barry Orr. You have time to react to that trade. Expect to see that come on a few points or 2 in the market. If you're new to the show, there you can see all the graphics on the screen. The market, the real market, the Betfair Exchange happening as the race goes on. A bit of protocol on the show. I'll be trying to call the races or make as much sense as we possibly can. I'll be throwing to James. I'll be throwing to G as well. And we'll get a selection for most of the races for the chaps as well. But listen, if you think this is a tricky heat, don't worry, sit it out. We've got plenty coming your way. We'll try and give you a shout or 2. That's what it's all about. Keep your questions coming in. Let's go to James then. We've got 10 minutes and 15 minutes, of course, until the first race. So, when was your last ride again?
My last ride, 2012, so 9 years ago.
2012? That's flown by, isn't it?
Retired a fair while, yeah.
He gives it the large that he backed that and all that sort of thing. I tell you what, he'd have seen your name in the week on the running order and gone, I better do a bit of
He's got the research spot on though, because someone in the office this morning said I didn't have very many winners. I was a little bit disappointed.
The banter begins. I have heard that you don't mind a bit of banter,
I was
James.
disgusted by the lowering of my career winners. It's a poor effort.
I spoke to Declan McDonald last week, and I said, Deco, you had 1,400 winners so far. He went, oh, you can give me them if you want. I think it's more like 1,200. And James comes in, and I went, was it 81 winners? I can't. He went, I think you'll find it was more like 120. I tell you what, we need to update our databases, don't we? But 120...
137. You're still lower in the number.
Still down. Unlike Barry, you see, I like to make you work for friendship. That's what it's all about.
That last ride, you know exactly what happened.
But at what point did you... because, James, it has been an interesting journey to this point, to this chair for you, hasn't it? I mean, at one point, we have nicknames for everyone on the show. And it's fair to say that I can't wait to see what yours will be. We don't know. We're dictated to by the rating and the reactions. I mean, G's got about 4 or 5, but we'll just call him the Big Bear for now. Mad Professor, if you like.
The only ones you can mention, the Big Bear.
The only ones we can mention live, of course. And but you were a lawyer, weren't you? I mean, you were a brief, weren't you?
Briefly a lawyer. 4
Briefly
months.
a brief.
4 months after 4 years at law school. I didn't like working for a living. I've done various things. Back assistant trainer now, really. And a bit of commenting on the racing TV. So keeping my irons in quite a few fires.
Everyone will recognise James's face, of course. You were at Ascot yesterday, you had a runner there. No runners this weekend, which I said must have been by design, so you don't get the, we would have loads of people saying, what's this going to do and what's that going to do? But, I said to you, I am a fan of the yard. And you sort of looked at me as if to say, is he doing a Barry Orr on me here? I'm not sure. But I genuinely am. And, of course, everyone remembers your most favourite horse, Sergeant Cecil, of course. How many years ago was that now that he...
So he was 05, 06 was when he was at his peak.
Oh.
And, again, the man next to me let us down a little bit as well on the old...
You're working out that this is not the professional operation that you thought it was. Because I said to Graeme Rodway, I said, have you done your homework? When you saw James come in and he looked at me as if to say, homework? I didn't realise we had to do it. And I said, Sergeant Cecil, he was your Group 1 winner, of course.
He is our only
Everyone
only
loved
Group 1
Sergeant
winner.
Cecil, didn't they? The Cadran, which I got right because I'm a fan of the yard.
Yeah, no, spot on.
And I said to Graeme, he also did a famous treble. And you got the one that everyone gets, but have you worked out what it could be? The famous treble, not done since, unlikely to be done anytime soon. Sergeant Cecil
season.
In the same season.
Yeah.
It was the E-ball was the middle leg.
I do remember the E-ball, yeah.
There's not many
Did he
other
win
options.
Doncaster Cup?
Oh, wrong. He was
Incorrect.
Second
This is
in
going
the
to be good
Doncaster
fun,
Cup.
this, isn't it? Second in the Doncaster. He was a brilliant horse, wasn't he?
I'm meant to be up on this as well because I'm handicapping the staying races at the moment. What are the other big?
What's the main?
He didn't win a Chester Cup. You have failed miserably. Barry, can you remember what's...
Barry will know.
I heard Barry's keyboard going, I'll tell you.
I don't cheat like that. I wouldn't do that. Was it Cigaro, no?
Cigaro, man.
It's even worse.
It was a handicap. We should...
Yeah, we'll narrow it down for you.
back.
Staying handicaps, the big races.
Pitman's...
Oh yes,
Tell
yeah,
you,
I remember
Barry
him
Orr.
winning that now,
You're as slick as
That
they
was when
come.
it was on the
It
turf.
was the Pitman's Derby.
Yeah.
That was the first one.
Number 1.
Pitman's Derby, Ebor, which everyone...
the 2 mile 4 race at Newmarket.
No, 2-2.
2-2, yes.
Yeah, but
Cesarewicz.
Hey, there we go.
applause.
We got there in the
He's
end.
on the ball.
Honestly, the trade paper.
I don't think Horse will do that again. Do you?
It's very,
very
very
hard.
tough. Extremely tough, rising in the handicap all the way. He just kept finding those. When he won the Cesarewicz, it was, you sensed a moment of brilliance.
To be fair, he wouldn't actually get in the Ebor or on the plate now. The way the ratings have compressed, because I think he was only 88 maybe when he won the plate, and now he'd be in the consolation. But for us, luckily, that was the era where you could sneak in with a bit of progression. I think everyone now is basically group horses in a handicap anyway.
But let's face it, it wasn't just in the early noughties. Master Carpenter was, John Smith's Cup winner for you. Was that 2015?
Yes, he was a great horse, really. He was third in the Greenham behind Night of Thunder and Kingman.
Wow.
Cracking effort. Blew his handicap mark. Won a Group 3, won a Group 2. Struggled a bit, won the John Smiths, and that was actually $250,000, I think, prize money-wise. And then he kept on going until he was 7, kept winning races.
Yeah, so assistant trainer, but you've got no thoughts of taking over, have you?
I did when I was younger. I never wanted to be a jockey. I only rode purely because I thought it was advantageous for us. A small yard, if you're going to have a retained jockey, they're not going to be good enough, really, if they're only riding for you, because they should be wanting to ride for better people.
Yeah.
I rode the horses more because I didn't like other people doing the job. Struggled my weights, just got fed up with it.
Yeah. It's a struggle, man.
It is
struggle is real.
not easy, and I just felt go for a change. Thought I'd be a lawyer, earn lots of money. It didn't quite pan out like that.
Were you a terrible brief? Were you basically?
To be fair,
were you just not guilty to everything?
I was a solicitor, so I was more in the office side.
Oh, one of them.
Did sports law, which actually that was interesting. But yeah, just sitting in the office, same four balls, not going anywhere. And it was very much small little things you got to concentrate on. I just got bored.
A bit bored with it. There you go. There's a little intro to our debutant today, James Millman. Fantastic to have James on. It's been a long time coming. And he was here. He's going to give you insight. He's a decent tipster, as you know, likes a punt. Get your questions in for James. We'll give you a readout as and when we can. But we must go back to this first race. It's developing, isn't it, guys? Dream Loper was one of mine. The horses that I thought was most likely to win this weekend, I spoke to Paul Keeley in this studio yesterday. He goes, "What about the ground for it?" He goes, "I like Conservatoire because I know it's going to be fine. It's it's Haggis. She'll be fine over the 3-year-old there. She's by Loppy de Vega. Ed Walker trained the dam and the half brother. Dream Weaver was the half brother. He loved the slot. I'm not worried about it. He did.
Not sure. Not sure about
Don't
that.
tell
Dave.
me my database
Not
has gone wrong
sure
again.
about
If you can
that
prove
one.
me wrong. Okay, just bear with me a sec. The dam was Livia's dream. Dreamweaver. Here we go.
Unfortunately, 1 run on good to soft, 2 runs on good to soft,
I
and they
thought
were
he
shocking.
liked quick
What?
ground.
He wanted firm
Hold on a
ground.
minute.
Come on, Dave. I thought you said I wouldn't.
Where's the
didn't do
soft
my
ground
fun
coming
work.
in?
There's no soft ground form there.
Yeah, exactly.
I've had a shocker. I thought Dreamweaver liked the soft ground. I really need to work on my database. 78 winners for your dad.
Me?
Yeah.
No, 100 and...
Honestly.
I had 20 outside winners, so I think 117 winners for the old man.
It's all gone wrong. It's all gone wrong. The boys at Racehall Interactive.
Are you just guessing, Dave? I go 80.
Listen, this
was
is
it,
the sort of fun
120?
we have here on this show. Absolutely.
I've just been insulted
I will
by my lack of winners and my...
The only way is up, my man. By the end of
Not
the
coming
show,
back. He ain't coming back after this.
I'm not coming back. Listen.
James, you want to see the way he talks to Maddie Batchelor? You think what you're getting is bad?
Yeah, exactly. A Hennessy winning jockey as well.
Oh, God. Where was that, Barbados? Yeah, Batch will be back sooner rather than later. Don't you worry about that. So I'm Dream Loper. She of course, ran a blinder, I thought, at Haydock on her return. They were thinking about the Hunt Cup for her. They've got Matthew Flinders for that in the yard. I think he wins the Hunt Cup. And this one is being aimed at the new filly and mares handicap at Royal Ascot in June. And I think going up a little bit of handicap will be no problems there whatsoever. You don't like her, though, James.
I didn't like seeing her on the TV in the paddock either. She's getting a little bit upset.
She is buzzy. She wears her hood.
Back to your ground, I prefer lights on. I was actually at Nottingham when she won last time. And so Michael Stout, Cheeley Park don't keep 4-year-old fillies in training unless they think there's potentially black type on the agenda. Now, she won off 85 last time. We had the second, and we'd trained Crystal Cass for that race, and she just blitzed past her very, very easy. Now, the ground is exactly the same as your choice, Dream Loper. The ground is a question mark, but the pedigree for lights on, the half-brother, Carrar, he did go on easy ground, unlike Dreamweaver. So I'm going to take a chance that lights on will cope with the ground. I agree about Barry's 3-year-old point. They get a huge weight for age allowance. We've only got a couple in it. You've got a big price for Thank You Next. The other Cheeley Park runner, they've kind of hedged their bets a little bit because she will love the heavy ground. Concertoire, Liam Jones is back in the saddle, can do 8 stone 3. She's stepping up in grade, but if you want a solid one that's going to handle the ground, she will be the one at 9-2. And I just think Lights On, though, as a whole, is much better than Dream Loper.
That's very interesting that you've got a line on her. You were getting stoned that day, weren't you, Crystal Cass?
Yeah, Crystal Cass, she's at her limit. She's at her mark. She ran a cracker, but Lights On just absolutely flew by. She's only gone up £7, which I thought was fair. The ground is a question mark. She's not running the surface.
Stouty's had a blinding start to the season as well, hasn't he?
Very good. And this man on board, Kingscott, as well. Obviously, Ryan is...
Big fan.
When he's there. But Richard's got a cracking strike rate, nearly 40% at the moment for Sir Michael. And like I say, he's a good rider and he deserves to get not a job, but get the opportunities.
Absolutely, a powerhouse opportunity. Yeah, quite right. Just the 3-year-old has won this, of course, in the last 10 years from 16 runners. My database is right on that front, I can tell you. Graeme Rodway.
Yeah, I thought that Dream Loper would win, and then I did my research, unlike you, Dave, and I just thought that Dream Loper wouldn't go on the ground.
Okay.
And then I read Ed Walker's comments about Dream Loper, and he says, well, by Lope de Vega, and that is a soft ground influence. I don't think that is.
Completely, do they?
There we are. It's a bit of a misnomer. This. He's just a good sire, isn't it? It's even split.
Well, I mean, I've got the stats here: 11% on heavy, 13% on
better
soft,
on quicker
12%
ground.
on good soft, 15% on good, 15% on good to firm, 31% on firm.
Now, but let me tell you exactly why we pigeonhole sires like this. When sires start, everyone always remembers their first decent horses, and Abelardo was his top horse early on, Lope de Vega. He was a slot monkey. You can pigeonhole them, but when you actually look a little bit closer, you know, if you haven't got a Racer Interactive out there, although it wasn't the greatest advert at the start, let me tell you, I could not live without it.
So, yeah, essentially, I just decided to leave it, Dave.
Is that Interactive that you're looking at?
No, that was actually our website. I just decided in the end that it was a race to watch. I still think Dream Loper might win, and they might go on she might go on the ground.
Yeah.
But I don't want to take the chance, so I'm happy to sit out and watch, Dave.
I mean, it is one of these days, isn't it? The rain pours. We've had the driest spring for a long, long time, and all of a sudden we're nearly on heavy. What's going on out there watering cans? Okay, let's get some socials up in the corner. Mark Smith opens the show and says, Dream Loper was a massive eye catcher last time. She'll do for me. I'm worried about the Haggis horse off a lightweight. Well, hopefully James and myself and Graeme have covered that for you. Keep the faith. She's a really good horse. If she settles, she wins. OK, Chris Timms, good to have you back. Chris says, Conservatoire for me. Winner on heavy, ground last year. No worries about the conditions whatsoever. Is there a more popular trainer out there at the minute than William Haggis?
Probably
He's
not.
just brilliant. Does he have brilliance about him?
He's got a great strike rate, hasn't he? You know, his strike rate is
I'm not going to
incredible.
say it, are
isn't
you?
it?
You just won't say it.
His strike rate is incredible, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, you know, he's good, isn't he?
He is brilliant, let me tell you. He's fantastic. How much do we love William Haggis? The Adabe story is just something else, especially in this COVID time. You know, it's absolutely marvellous. Did you see that winner of his yesterday at Ascot, the Hamdan horse?
It won on the bridle, didn't it?
Woo!
Even money lines.
Adari or something it's called, wasn't it?
Aldari, yeah.
Yeah, it was absolutely sizzling.
Market can be a bit good with that yard, can't it? Can give you a bit of a steer.
Is it Motafahe he had that won at the Guineas? Mahafeth.
That
It's
is
very difficult, isn't it, to get his names out looking at them. But
I just had a feeling, I know that was impressive, I just had a feeling that race fell apart a bit behind him.
don't you just
Not
love the
new
way he's
market
trained,
races
though?
in general, though. This year they have.
He has won this race with a horse called Urban Fox. Well, that would
First
be
run
3
for
years
yard,
ago, wouldn't it?
that was.
Yeah, in those colours. Oh, God.
Green and red colours it was.
The stud colours, of course. And she went on to run in the Duke of Cambridge, the Group 2. She was highly rated, of course. There's no horse rated higher than 100 in this. But I think this is still a tidy little race. A reminder that Barry is going for the outsider of the lot, or she was the outsider of the lot, Barry. How's the market shaping up?
She still is. She's out to 24 now. Your favourite at the head of the market, Dream Loper, 3.8 now. Still around the 11-4 mark. Some money for the two Cheveley Park fillies now. Lights On is 4.1. Conservatoire is 7. Poet's Lady, money for that at 6.2. And it's 11.5 bar. But yeah, favourite strong at the head of the market.
Marvellous. Thank you, Barry. OK. They're ambling down at the start. Blustery old day in Berkshire. A complete contrast to how it was yesterday, I imagine, James. You were there.
It was still a bit chilly there yesterday, to be fair. We are in May. There was nice ground there. It was on the good to soft, but I thought it was perfect for every horse, whereas today they've raced it already, is going to get into ground pretty quickly, and by the time Victoria Cup comes, it's going to be quite testing, I'd imagine. Straight
track at Ascot. If you were on a front runner for the old man, would you just think, I've got no chance here?
To be fair, riding at Ascot, I thought I had no chance anyway.
That's harsh. I'm looking up the stats. I'll probably get them wrong, but
they're not great at Ascot. Since they resurfaced the track, it does ride a little bit more like an all-weather surface, and certain horses don't go on it, and for whatever reason our horses don't tend to like the straight track, and it is one where you find specialists, and Victoria Cup in particular, you want to be concentrating on course and distance form. We haven't got a great deal of that in this contest in particular. It's hard to make all, but if no one wants to do it, you can make all the running, but you're a little bit hostage to what your rivals do, and we often see that slight climb at the end. It does catch a few out.
Yeah, it can be tricky, G, can't it, to call it? A lot of people think that Ascot winners don't translate elsewhere, the form elsewhere, which is very harsh for a Premier track such as ours. Perhaps the best race course in the world.
Perhaps, yeah. I think that with the pace bias, it's easier to make all over 5 than it is to make all over 7 or a mile. I think over a 7 and a mile, you really do need to be held up there. It is hard to not to make all. But we have seen
Jamie
it.
Spencer
haven't we?
special, isn't it, generally?
Well, that's what I'm hoping for later in the Victoria Cup with Chief of Chiefs. But we did see a horse make all in the Royal Hunt Cup when they really went no pace.
Stillo in the Britannia as
Oh,
well.
and the same year, Amanda Perrett.
Zifeng.
Zifeng. I tell you what, James Millman's owning his corn. We're getting some great feedback apparently on the social channels about you, James, as well. Who knew? It's all there. OK, we're in the stalls for the first then. 1:55 at Ascot, and we're off and running, and one completely missed
Poet's
it.
Lady.
That was Poet's Lady for Connor Beasley and David Barron, although they've got...
Always mad keen Dreamloper here.
Well, there's no pace whatsoever, is there? Separates is taking it on for Julie Camacho. James
settle down
Doyle
a bit now.
up front. And here comes Thank You Next to keep it a little bit warm. Barry Orr's pick. Yeah, they're just ambling, aren't they? So after a couple of furlongs, Dreamloper's just in behind. I think she's settled fine.
Yeah, she's settled fine now.
For a buzzy filly. We've got Hold Fast as well, triple winner on the all-weather this season. She's in a nice position. We've got Lights On, the horse at James Millman. She's a good looker, isn't she? She just sits a little bit off the pace as well. In fact, they're all really well bunched up. Conservatoire pulling a little bit, but you wouldn't be totally upset with that at the minute. James, after a couple of furlongs, initial thoughts?
Yeah, they're going very steady. Separate, it was held up behind Lights On last time. The fact that she's making the run in shows you they're going slow. Yours, Dream Loper's actually settled very nicely, bit better than mine, Lights On, but she was keen last time at Nottingham and didn't make a difference.
OK, I was just getting some hilarious feedback. Apparently I'm having a shocker, but you're not, James, so far. One must improve. Graeme, Rodway, thoughts as they come up to the 3 furlong marker?
Yeah, you'd want to be on the front end here, wouldn't you? But they're all going well, aren't they? It's about to really get going now, and it? Barry's selection. Thank You Next coming through to take it up, Dave.
It's the last off the
Raven
bridle.
94.
I'll tell you what, this has come right down. But Dreamloper, this is where we see what we've got here. And she's quick and nicely into the lead. Has she gone a little bit too soon? We will find out. Will the ground blunter? Here comes Lights On. That's still going to have a say. Poet's Lady missed the break. Has run well to a point. Thank You Next looks like it's just going to fill the place. Conservatoire badly out of its ground. I'll tell you what, James, I think you're going to start off with a winner here. Unbelievable scenes already in the first. 1:55. It's Lights On turning it up. A really good ride, of course, from Richard Kingscote.
Oh, it's getting close, Dave.
Just going to do Dreamloper. Who's coming back?
You went a bit soon there, Dave, didn't you? You almost had another shocker there.
Story of my life, Graeme. Story of my life. So the two have come well clear, and you have to say this will probably work out to be a pretty strong form race, despite the fact they went a very, very steady gallop early on. Thank You Next has finished, has faded to fourth. Conservatoire, disappointing, wasn't she?
She was too keen on the Liam Jones, but fair play. Dreamloper ran better than I expected. I think Graham's quite right. Richard probably just hit the front a little bit early and she's just tied up, but that's quite a strong race.
Yeah, I agree with that. We'll pick the bones out of it shortly. There you can see, there's the Betfair starting price, Lights On highlighted. What was it, Barry? Just over 3s?
The winner, 4.12, just over 3 to 1. Thank You Next, can you believe hit a low at 2.7 in running? I don't see how that was. Dreamloper hit a low 1.75.
Remarkable. I mean, she's run well, Barry, hasn't she? Thank You Next. She's probably just it's sort of in the right place at the right time, I think. Now, let's talk about these two horses. If you're Ed Walker, G, with Dreamloper, and you're aiming at the fillies handicap, what are you going to go up for that? He won't be displeased with that run at all, will he?
No, she's definitely gone on the ground, hasn't she? Because she stayed on very nicely and she did settle well.
The family love it, you know. The slop.
And was it the Hood first time there? So that's obviously.
I don't think it was first time.
Definitely.
She'd had it in the past, but she's not the last 5 starts.
Yeah, she was very lit up at Haydock last time, wasn't she? I thought she had it. Do you think she's gone just that tad too soon, James, or are we being
No, because
harsh?
Lights On has just quickened past her quite easily, and she's run strong to the line. She's seen out the mile very well. She's of course distance winner.
There's a pound between them, isn't there? So the handicap has got it spot on.
Both of them are probably black type fillies that they'll probably step out to listed company.
Yeah.
Both owned by pretty prominent breeders, especially Lights On. I just felt when she went to Nottingham, Cheeley Park and Sir Michael don't keep a 4-year-old filly in training unless they think that's on the agenda. Now she's won 2 quite valuable handicaps, 40k she's picked up nearly.
Yeah, quite happy with Crystal Cask where she goes now.
We probably should have perhaps run in this. I thought she'd be too low off 77. She wouldn't have liked the ground, but she was unlucky because she had no chance against one like that. And Poet's lady who finished 5th at Nottingham, she's finished 3rd, so the race has worked out nicely.
So do you think you might get knocked up in the weights now, James? For
isn't that the worst thing?
Is that annoying?
It would be annoying because she's not won for 18 months now, and she's kind of shown she's at her mark. The handicap are not like you can do. You can argue as much as you want, and they kind of have their own opinion. But I'd be disappointed. The evidence will be there. You'll be saying, "Oh, Lights On is another £7 higher in the future, so we're going to bump you up a couple of pounds.
Do you think we've seen a Royal Ascot winner there in Lights On? Do you think she can keep going in the handicap, or will they go in search of that inverted commas black type ending?
Black type's probably more valuable for her as a broodmare. Does Sir Michael think, what's she going to be, 99, 100? Is she going to have to win a Hunt Cup? It's going to be harder. 30 runners and against.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? She probably will go. I mean, they come well clear. She probably could be looking at 7.
A pair of them are quite progressive, I think.
Yeah, and Dream Low, but honestly, Ed Walkup, he knows what he's got in his yard, and his horses are running very, very well. Matthew Flinders, I'm really, really keen on that for the Hunt Cup coming up. Of course, next month.
I have the winner of the Hunt Cup, Dave.
Here we go. Go on, Barry.
Astro King, the horse of Michael Stouts that ran
the
in
first
the first
Hunt Cup.
Yeah, was drawn bad, didn't get knocked around. I'd say he's on a lovely mark for the Hunt Cup at the Royal Meeting.
There wouldn't be a lot between Matthew Flinders and that horse, because Nugget was the horse that sandwiched them both, basically,
That's right,
isn't it?
yeah.
So, yeah, okay. Oh, next month, Royal Ascot. Wow, cannot wait for that. Will we see fans back there? That's the question, isn't it? What do you reckon on that? How are you feeling out there? We floated that on a couple of feature shows on the Racing Post this week. We were expecting some pilot events in May, weren't we? Here we are in the merry month of May, and we're now saying that we might have one pilot event in June. Will it be at Royal Ascot? David Armstrong and the Racecourse Association changing the goalposts a little bit. On government advice, of course. They are selling tickets for racecourses from the 17th of May.
I bought one.
Yeah, go on.
A Brigadier Gerard night at Sandown, one of my favourite nights of the year.
Agree. Best evens racing you can ever go to, Sandown.
Do you think you'll be now? I think racecourses are trying to do, the hospitality thing, aren't they? Basically, so Windsor will have like a terrace, so it's just going to be like a pub on a racecourse. How bizarre is that?
Yeah, well, a lot of people treat racecourses like pubs on racecourses anyway, don't they? So
if you just wanted to go and see the racing, is what I'm saying.
Can you go?
According to the stats so far and the Racecourse Association, that's not what it is. So correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're buying a ticket for Windsor next Monday,
well, you can't go.
I don't think so. I think that we won't be considered one of the pilot events. So of course, next week lots will be leaking, won't it, and stuff. So we hope that will be the case.
I think we'll learn more, but whatever happens, you will be in a zone in the fact that you can't walk around anywhere like you normally do. So
green and ambers, aren't they?
Exactly, and you'll either be by the paddock or by the track, or one or the other. You're not going to be able to have that race day experience, which most people do go for everything, not just to sit in one place all day.
We don't want to go into this too much, because we've got another race coming up at Lingfield, the first race today at Lingfield coming up, but there was a funding issue as well, wasn't there? And all sorts of things was happening, so politically, probably things are at play a little bit.
Yes, and they're still having the Cheltenham payback a little bit, I think.
Which
unfortunately, we're a long way from that, but I do think in the back of their minds, racing wrongly, but it got all the stick.
Loads of questions on it. What's going to happen to betting slips and things like that? We need answers, BHA and everyone out there. OK, let's just give Barry the final word on that, because Barry, you've got a roadmap out now, haven't you, finally?
Well, kind of.
It's even slower.
Yeah, very slow over here. Very reluctant to discard any medical advice and just kick on. There's a real reluctance for government to actually take the bull by the horns in racing. You know, they're talking now, maybe there could be some pilot crowds at the Galway Festival, which is July into August, the end of July into August. But you'd hope that you'd see it before that. The vaccination programme is gathering pace, thankfully. So, I'd like to think that we'd be at a racetrack before Galway, fingers crossed.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's just absolutely crazy, isn't it? But listen, the most important thing is that we look after our athletes, of course, on these courses. The green zones have to be protected. David Armstrong said that's got a little bit lost as well. So, look, stick with it. We're going the right way, aren't we? If Graeme Rodway's hair looks like it does at the moment, we must be going the right way. Shall we have a classic trial? It's the fillies' time to shine, the 2:15 at Lingfield. The Oaks trial. Barry Orr, who's been hot?
Yeah, when we first went up with this race, Technique was the favourite. She just got nutted on the line by Burko in Epsom in the Blue Ribbon trial up there. That form's been let down since. She traded at 5s on as well before she just got caught in the line. Burko traded at 600 that day. But Loving Dream is now your favourite at 4.6, 5.7 Ocean Road, Divinely for Ryan Moore and Aidan O'Brien, 6.6. Technique is out to 6. Nasha, who was a 7-2 chance at one stage, is out to 7. That's what I like in it if she handles the ground. She's by Dubawi out of Just the Judge, who won an Irish Guineas on good to firm ground, though, it has to be said. I'm not sure about this one going on the ground, and that's why you're getting such a big price. But I was really impressed with her. She carried her penalty last day. She stayed on really, really well. She looks a really game filly, and I think she will have the tools to manage on the ground. and the trip. So I'm just going to have a straightforward 25 quid win bet on her, please, G-Rod.
Okay, yeah, Nash at 25 to win, 7.
7-0, yeah. So it's 6-1, I think, is a really fair price about her. And again, she's drifting. All of this market is a bit up in the air, but it's all around the state of the ground. Loving Dream, who was second to Noon Star and Weatherby, that was probably a decent run. And in very strong at the top of the market now at 4.7, haven't been trading at 7.0 and above earlier on.
Nasher it is then for the boys in blue and Barry Orr. You've got time to react to that. Let's get some more socials up on the screen. You see the spotlight verdict there going for Ocean Road. Thomas Irish HD, welcome back, Thomas. And he says, think Sherbet Lemon underperformed at Weatherby. Go each way. Okay, for Archie Watson and Paul Mulrennan. Of course, Noon Star was those. And that looks like another good stout filly, that one, James, isn't it? Noon Star.
And there's quite a lot of Noon Star form lines here, both Love and Dream and Ocean Road. Now, Ocean Road off level weights arguably got closer and achieved more, and that was on soft ground at Nottingham. She then went on to win on the weather. I would just be edging towards Ocean Road out of the pair of them.
We're agreeing.
Agree.
It does tend to happen on this show to worry you. Yeah, I like Ocean Road as well, and Spotlights do as well. Ocean Road, yeah, Hugo Palmer's only previous runner in this last 10 years was a horse called Architecture, just lost out to Seventh Heaven. Remember that powerhouse filly a couple of years ago? Went on to win the Irish Oaks, etc. Architecture finished second in that as well. And I thought she would probably handle the ground. I thought she would be one of the more likely stayers. Let's just keep with James for a second. 3-year-olds early in their career. It always used to be a really good formula of mine, if you like. I used to like looking for the strong stayers in 3-year-old only handicaps over middle distance. Half of them you could see on pedigree weren't going to stay, and it would really narrow it down. Are we trying to stretch horses out by pedigree at this stage?
If you've got that classic Dream, you've kind of got to try now. You see a lot of Aidan O'Brien run numbers and Godolphin run numbers because they want to narrow down their final 5 or 6 that they're going to run in the race. But there's only one classic, isn't there? And you kind of stretch them, whereas we're edging more towards speed, the general population, but people do still want to win at the Oaks and the Derby.
Yeah, I thought Technique was an unlikely stayer on paper. But of course, we saw, in the classic trial against the boys, Werco let that form down, G, didn't he, at Chester in the week? But she's coming back against the fillies. Is that an angle you like?
Yeah, I don't really like that piece of form. A bit like a lot of people have been saying that. So
seems like a long time ago that Cracksman won a blue ribbon trial, doesn't it?
It used to always be a non-event, really, and they gave the wild card. If you won it, you win and you're in. And now Ballydoyle do send one over. John Gosden, obviously Cracksman, used it to good effect. But I would agree it perhaps looked better at a time than what it's turned out.
Cracksman does stick out a little bit, doesn't he? So what wins this, G?
I think Ocean Road will win it, so that's an absolute grand slam, isn't it?
The first time this Saturday we give you an agreement, 3-way go then for Ocean Road.
I think that she will like this ground. I thought she ran well on her debut, and I was a little bit below that form next time at Lingfield on Racing Post ratings, but obviously would have had to get a run in. She's still inexperienced going into the winter. I'm sure that. Just getting a win in a weekish sort of race, and then to look to next season. And he's a funny little trainer, isn't he, Hugo Palmer? Now, this is a fella that
I told you this was going to happen, didn't I, during the afternoon?
Well, this is a fella.
Sit back. Yeah, don't worry. Don't associate yourself with it.
Now, when in my down times, it shows you how sad I am. I sometimes sit there and run out strike rates on trainers and dependent on how many days each run has won, and basically, generally speaking, most trainers will have a better strike rate with horses returning to the track quickly. Yeah, so anything within like 14 days will be good, and then from 14 days to 30, the strike rate will go down, and then over 50, it will go right down. Hugo Palmer's actually the opposite. He's actually better with horses returning from long absences. He has a better strike rate with horses returning from long absences than he does with horses that are returning from short ones. So that suggests that he must be getting them absolutely bang fit at home. So I think 157-day absence would be no problem for Ocean Road.
Interesting. Classic winning trainer, of course, Hugo Palmer. Hoping to work with him soon as well, so let's get that back in. OK, Tom Leach comes on the show. Welcome along, Tom. Hugo, first time out, angle on Ocean Road. Wow, someone actually agrees with G. Unbelievable.
Somebody else sits there in their downtime running out stuff like that.
Tom Leach does as well. You do actually have fans out there. Do you know what? I
do.
had an alfresco a dinner with a pal who watches the show a lot. He's a big punter, and he goes, what I love about Graeme is I think he just makes everyone think he's mad. But if you follow him a lot, he's actually, I love reading him, I love following him, all that sort of stuff. I had to have another drink. And we let it pass. But there we are. So listen, don't worry about it if Hugo brings one back to the track. Classic winning trainer. This race, of course, has produced Oaks winners in the last 2 years. Maybe not quite as we know it last year. Miss Yoda went to the German Oaks. Did you see a great piece in the paper today in the members section? The chat between...
Apparently Thaddy's plan, or Thaddy's plan.
Now, come on. Can we just... we need to agree on this. Is it Thady or is it Thaddy? It's Thaddeus, isn't it?
It's definitely
Thaddeus
Thaddeus.
is the official name.
Thady or Thaddy? Thady, if you're watching, unlikely. But if you are, let us know what it is. We'll go with Thady.
Good odds to get a reply back.
Yeah,
what was Gosden's father's name? They used to call him Towser.
Towser, that's right.
But was he Thady as well? Was he?
There's got to be a Thaddeus somewhere along. Now, this brings me on to my next point. And you never know what's going to happen on this show. And we had a curveball bowled to us, didn't we? Just before the off, someone in this studio is distantly related to the Gosdens. Sit back, Barry. You won't believe who it is. It is the Bear. Do they call you Bear Gosden? I'm not kidding. Explain.
This is absolutely 100% true in that my wife is actually a third or fourth cousin to John Gosden, and so I don't know how it works, but her mother essentially was related to Peggy, I think her name was. Peg. And
John Gosden has literally just spat out the sherry.
And she. Towser used to train down in Lewes in East Sussex, and my wife's mum, spent a lot of time down there when she was young. She actually now lives in Canada, and when John Gosden trained in the US, he actually spent a lot of time with what would have been my wife's mum's mum. So wow. I don't know what that relation is. But, I'm sure that John is absolutely horrified. Obviously, he'll be watching this. But the first thing...
This is great, isn't it?
The first thing that when I met my wife, she asked me what I did. I said, I work in horse racing. And she said, my cousin is in horse racing. His name's John Gosden. And I said, no. I said, shall I tell you why? Shall I tell you why this is so weird as well? Is that she's actually from Canada and it was her first day in England. So I knew that she wasn't lying because there's no way she would have known who John Gosden was.
We could go into that story a lot more. You met your wife on her first day in England. Bums, that's what...
Yeah, she landed on the Thursday.
And I thought I should have gone to Luton,
First time she'd ever been to England, landed on the Thursday. She met me on the Friday, dropped me the John Gosden line, and that was it. I was sold.
You were smitten. Of course you were. Of course you were. Unbelievable. There you go. So we have a relation to the Gosdens, of course. And is it Thady? Is it Thady? We'll go with Thady, of course. So that will become very apparent as it goes on. Quite a relatively quiet weekend for the Gosden tribe, isn't it? But of course they won this last year. They have Loving Dream in here. Now, why don't we like Loving Dream? What is it that puts us off? Is it that 7 at the start of a career?
Go back to that article. They've said they've not got a strong team of 3-year-olds this year. Now, the Gosden's horses are always very highly regarded because of the results time and time again, but they've been pretty clear in the fact that they've got nothing that they're...
I believe he said that he was vulnerable, was the word he
Exactly. He's relying on the older horses, Palace Pier, etc. But there's nothing standing out, and I just think the Noon Star form, I would just edge towards Ocean Road. I like Barry's horse, the attitude that the Nash Nasher showed, but he did make a great point about just the judge. She went to America to take advantage of the very,
Charlie
very
Hills?
ground. Charlie Hills,
Qatar, yeah.
See, Qatar bred this one and then sold her for £1 million. A lot of money, but nonetheless, I thought the attitude she showed in a strong novice, giving away the penalty, I thought that was a good effort. The ground is the question mark.
It's unusual, but Godolphin don't really have an association with this race, or that much actually, for the Colts version coming up in around about 40 minutes as well. So listen, we're around about a minute away. We all like Ocean Road in the studio. Barry Orr, he thinks that Nash Nasher will do it as well. So it's William Buick versus Oisin Murphy for the panel. What are you going for? Let us know. Keep them coming in. We love the social interaction. Myself, Dave Orton, James Millman making his debut on the show, Graeme Rodway and Barry Orr from Betfair steering you through. This will be only our second race of the day, won't it? That means we've got another 8 coming your way. Glorious scenes here in the studio. Raining wherever you are out there. I'm sure you're keeping dry and watching the show. Let us know. YouTube, like and subscribe. Facebook Live, keep your comments coming in. Anything on Twitter, it's hashtag RP Live. Really good to be back with you this afternoon. We're at that informative stage of the season, aren't we? Well, let's face it, I don't really have serious interest in trials, not really. And it's interesting what you mentioned there about the Gosdens. They didn't have a crack 2-year-old, did they? Magellan was talked of as being their top 2-year-old colt last year. And you kept thinking over the winter, will Newcastle see something of an enable come out? I think they had a couple of really good colts run there, but he didn't have that crack 2-year-old. And was it last year, that truncated campaign?
I think COVID for the 2-year-olds in particular, because when you're training them, normally you've got a plan when you're going to introduce the sharper ones, the later maturing ones, and you stick to that through the years. Trainers are creatures of habit. They tend to do the same thing every year. But we didn't actually know, even in May, whether they were going to be running in June. I think Aidan O'Brien in particular got caught out because Ireland started later. He had a week to get some of his 2-year-olds a run and then go to Royal Ascot. We had a little bit longer. Chuck away all the Royal Ascot 2-year-old races. They were pretty pointless last year. But it's all been truncated. Nothing stood out last year. There's a winner in each domain 2-year-old races. And we've not really had a standout in either the 1,000 or the 2,000 guineas. There's nothing really that's stamping their authority at the moment, which is a shame, but I think it is the nature of what happened last year.
3 close up in the Colts Classic, of course, last weekend, weren't there? G, the Guineas. And, of course, Mother Earth, who was seemingly quite exposed at 2 as well. Let us know what you make of the Classics and, indeed, the Classic generation going forward. But they are going in to these stalls. So it looks like Loving Dream will indeed go off favourite. Frankie, Gosden, Factor, John and Thady.
I haven't mentioned Divinely here, which is an interesting one. His sisters have found. They all reckon that she should go on the ground. Okay.
We're about to find out, Barry. She was a heavy ground winner, wasn't she? And like Ocean Road, the only one that hasn't had a run this year. Aidan O'Brien's strike rate, we'll start talking about that, if you like. In Britain, since it's going back, it was a great start, wasn't it? Wheels have come off slightly. Don't know. Armory was impressive yesterday. But off we go in the 2:15, the Lingfield Oaks trial. And no messing about with Frankie. Frankie from the front. It means they will be going a married man's gallop at some stage. Looks like he's just dropping the anchor now. That's lit up Nash Nasher just off him in second. Looking for some of the big players. Technique is also rather keen out the back as well. We've got Sherbet Lemon, who was given a mention, of course, by one of our social viewers. Ideal sit from stall 5 for Paul Moran and Archie Watson. Divinely, no problems on the ground, says Barry Orr, sitting in 3rd or 4th. Regent on a hat-trick. Martin Harley, we've got an association now with John Gosden as well. Ocean Road right out the back, along with the progressive Saver Forest of Roger Varians. That is the order. James Millman, initial thoughts.
You missed the break from stall 1, Ocean Road. Big negative. A long way behind. Frankie's doing what he wants in front, and if you want to be on one, it's Frankie at the moment rather than our selection.
So we're coming down the hill. This is why people like running their Epsom horses, if you like, at Lingfield. It's a similar sort of test. Where don't you want to be? Where Ocean Road is?
At the back, because you're hostage to exactly what everyone at the front does, and you're going to start rising the hill now, and then it's a real sharp drop, and it's how brave you want to be. If you want to really kick on at that point, you can gain some cheap lengths because a lot of jockeys take a pull and try and hold them back. But where Kieran Farn is, he did try and get the horse out the gates. She missed the break a little bit at Lingfield last time, and he's got to wait until everyone else goes.
And the one jockey you don't want to see leading the gallop at the moment is?
Yeah, Frankie, of course. And Sherbet Lemon, he is trying to put it up to Frankie, isn't he? They are getting racing fairly early here, but there's no doubt about it. Frankie has set some easy fractions.
And Sean Levy on technique is doing that slingshot chicane that we can see. Where will they come down the home straight? That'll be interesting as well. Ocean Road didn't look to handle it too well, I don't think, at the moment either. Wow, what price has she got? Very big on the exchange. You can see that in front of your eyes. Now they're going. Now the sprint is on. And Loving Dream and Frankie still in the ideal position. Nash Nasher digging deep on the far side. Sherbet Lemon still in there. In fact, is this going to come good? Look out for Saver Forest.
We're going all right.
Ocean, I'll tell you what, on the inside, Ocean Murphy sits by the gap on the inside. This is some filly to overcome this if she does it. They're right in a line. Sherbet Lemon still the one to be on. Will she quite get home? Ocean Road divinely in there as well. Ryan Moore throwing everything.
No,
Which way are we going?
Middle, I think,
she just
is
got
it?
caught on the inside. Look over the top. This is a messy finish. finish, guys, isn't
Yeah.
it? But Sherbet Lemon dips inside the final furlong and takes it out. Ideally positioned, Archie Watson takes out the Oaks trial. Great trainer, Archie Watson. Can do it with pretty much anything he's got. He even has runs over jumps to success as well. But that was a messy race. Before we go down the panel, let's get the story of it on the market from Barry Orr.
Yeah, but the Ragged Field, the Betfair SP of 4.40, so at 39-1. Ocean Road hit a low of 2.06 in running. Divinely hit a low of 1.7. Nasha hit a low of 1.50, 2-1 on. Crazy scenes altogether, but big story being 4-0, 39-1. Betfair SP of the winner.
And congratulations to our viewer interaction. Thomas Irish HD likes to go for these big prize winners, and he knocked that in as well. Screaming, Thomas, I imagine you were at this point. And James, let's come to you then from a rider point of view. I mean, Nash just hasn't got home at all. In fact, technique far too keen, wasn't she? Was that just tactical position that's won the day?
Perfect ride from Palmer and stall 5 in the box seat. We mentioned the Gosnell horses perhaps aren't a great 3-year-old crop, and Frankie had his filly Love and Dream in the right place. We didn't really fancy the favourite. Upgrade Ocean Road, because she's had to sit and wait. Ocean's left with not much choice to go right up the far side rail, and the ground might be a little bit softer there. The principles have come more down the middle, but it's just where from stall 1, if you miss it, you're struggling. There's nothing you can do as a jockey. You can't really loop and go around them. You sit and suffer. And I thought he actually picked up nicely, but just that effort from the 2 to the 1 told in the closing stages.
Yeah, we write about these races so much, G, don't we? When, I mean, a horse that just sits basically second or third in the steadily run race, kicks. She looked vulnerable, though, didn't she? And she had to pull out a little bit more. Thomas Irish HD won't be having this whatsoever. He'll be saying, there's your Oaks winner.
Obviously stays very well, the winner. And previous run was beaten behind Loving Dream and Noon
Star. Yeah.
So, but did shape that day like a stayer, stayed on really strongly and probably maybe a bit more easy in the ground, as suited. I thought ours won really, really well, Dave, Ocean Win, considering the position that she got herself into. And I think James is spot on. I mean, Frankie seemed to be shunning that rail on Loving Dream. He didn't want to be anywhere near it, and the principals have come down the far side, and Oshie Murphy's just ended up in position Z, and she's done well to finish third.
I mean, we had a Divinely was bang there, wasn't she? She probably might want a bit more of a test. Perhaps it wasn't run to suit, but she's rated 95. She finished 8th in the Moygler, of course, last year. That gives us a little handle on the form. Look, it's a messy Lingfield Oaks trial, but Sherbet Lemon, Ribblesdale or Oaks, they'd have to go for the Oaks now, wouldn't they?
I don't think we've seen the Oaks winner there, do you, Dave?
Have we seen the Ribblesdale winner?
No.
Ocean Road?
No.
If you're sensible, you'd head for the Ribblesdale and miss the Oaks. Ocean Road, I think she's the best filly in the race.
Yeah.
But she's going to have to be sharp from the gates, because if she does go to Epsom, even if she goes to Ribblesdale, if you miss the break, even a mile and a half, it puts a jockey in a bad tactical position.
What would you be doing as assistant trainer now if you had this? Would you be saying, Dad, we need to get a 1 next to her name and go to Ribblesdale, or I mean, forget the physicality of the horse, forget what sort of needs it has from a planning perspective.
The problem is, once you're in this level, you can't really drop back. There's not really many
novice,
options
isn't
for
it,
you to
basically?
go, because once you've had 3 runs, you can't go back a novice.
Ah, there we are.
As a 3-year-old, you can at 2. You can go back to novice company. So once you've exposed your mark, most of these want black type anyway. There isn't that much of a programme as such that you can go for.
Interesting. Okay, so the chess pieces are being moved, but we mentioned, didn't we, Noon Star, well advertised that form. She's going to go for the Musadora next Wednesday.
She's exciting filly, isn't she? She was well on top that day at Wetherby. She really did put them to bed well.
Kingscote going to ride her?
Well, you don't imagine so, in the fact that Ryan's not going to be able to ride her if she is good enough to go for the Oaks, because he's going to be on whichever chosen Ballydoyle horse he's put on. So for me, it makes sense to keep.
It's a great fit, isn't it? I think that Kingscote and Stout. I like it. Okay, we must move on to the next race. It's Ascot. It's the listed Buckhound Stakes over a mile 4. Wide open stuff here. Plenty of characters coming back. Let us know what you think of that Oaks trial. We will revisit it if you would like us to do. Of course, I don't imagine that Sherbet will be getting much of a sexy price anti-post wise, but let us know. Are we looking at gift horse? We might well be. It's all about opinions. And we move on to Ascot then. The 2:30. Barry Orr.
Yeah, Deja, your favourite now, won the Old Newton Cup, 6.0, quite strong at that as well. Haven't traded a lot bigger out around the 10 and 12. Without a fight, 6.4, 6.0 Albufora. That one's come in for decent support as well. We'll go on the ground. Laffy is 9.2. I'm going to back the one that I there's a decent trade in this, I think. Al Nunak for Sylvester de Souza. It's traded at his last 4 or 5 runs in Kempton 8.4, 7.0 in Newbury, 3.45 in Windsor, Goodwood 8.2, and the Newmarket, the July course, trade at 2.10 in running, having a Betfair SP considerably larger than each of those in running lows. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back it at 14.5. We'll just have 25 quid in it, please, G-Rod. Just 25 quid at 14.5. And what we're going to do then, we're going to look to lay it in running, and we'll put in around, we're not going to get greedy, we'll put in around 4.0. So 3 to 1 to lay it in running. So if you go and click on the lay part at 15.5, bring that down to 4.0.
Yeah, we've done that, Barry.
And we'll put into 50 quid.
50,
so, yeah, we'll put in 50 quid. So we'd lose 150. We'll get 50 quid back out of it. So we'll win 25 if he gets beat, and we're locking in a profit if he actually goes on and wins the race.
Okay,
so
we need to keep that in running. Yep.
The one thing you need to do there, G, is click the keep bet option, because if we didn't click the keep bet option, the bet would be taken down when the race goes in play.
Which is, imagine, nothing worse, is there? When you think you've backed a winner and you look back and you didn't actually put the keep bet. So there you go. The function of the exchange advertised brilliant there by Barry. Or you've got time to react to that trade. Interesting indeed. Okay, this is the listed Buckhand Stakes. I looked at this race and it is wide open. There's a gamble on Deja when they knew that the rain was coming. I think you Taylor's put it up. A couple of other shooties this week as well. Jim Crowley. Is there a jockey riding better anywhere in the world than Jim Crowley at the moment? Absolutely.
Very much like Jim Crowley, because he's a very straight talker and he doesn't make too many mistakes when it comes to choosing the right ones. When it comes to Hamdan Al Maktoum horses, he has his finger on the pulse.
Yes, absolutely. That was a perfect fit, wasn't it? It doesn't matter what they do. But from stall 11, my point, he's going to have to be pretty savvy. And the gamble is now going the other way. Peter Chapel hasn't had a winner since last July.
I think since Deja won.
Since Deja won, there you go, of course, absolutely, which was the Old Newton Cup from memory. He's obviously got form here as well.
5th of July,
yeah.
Soft ground. You mentioned a draw, though. Graeme might be able to correct me or not, but aren't high numbers actually, despite the fact they're wide, favoured in the fact that you kind of meet in the middle when they had momentum to come
I think you're right
bit.
there. I think that's one of the misnomers, isn't it? It's people think that, inside is always good, but I think a 1.5 at Ascot tends to suit the outside.
And especially soft ground, you've got the Willie Carson Swinley bottom route.
Yeah, which we don't see that much these days, do we? When they go under the trees at Ascot, basically, because the rain hadn't been able to hit the ground. That's what Willie Carson famously did. Now we call it the Willie Carson route. I've done this to death, this draw thing on the round course. It's softer on the round course, of course, as ever, than it is on the straight track at Ascot today. So they'll be flying the mud up. This is one race, believe it or not, where you want to be drawn low historically.
But is that because it's normally a smaller field listed race?
Again, 10 runners running it last year and still one won it. That was Dashing Willoughby. But I think actually you are right. There have been quite a few smaller fields. But I wanted to go with something drawn low that was unexposed. I've gone for Roberto Escobar, not Pablo. I've gone for Roberto. The owners like to use that suffix. More to come from him. I think he's had a wind up. It's for this team, Haggis and Marquand. He won't mind the ground whatsoever. Happy to forgive his final run. I think there's more to come at 4. Let's concentrate on the panel's picks. James Millman.
Yeah, Roberto Escobar is interesting because Willie Haggis been straight into a decent race. And say he was disappointed, he was only 7 lengths behind Pile Driver. I think they probably expected a little bit more to go in that Group 3. It's a tricky one. They're no strong. I think the market's about right. They're pretty close to the top 5. There's only, 4 points between them. Alba Flora ran a cracker in Lisicon here at Ascot over mile 6, dropping back to a 1.5 might just help that one along.
Yeah, I was tempted by Alba Flora as well for another very good team, Ross O'Ryan and Rafe Beckett as well. Gone favourite now, Barry, has it?
Yeah, 5.5 she is now, and getting shorter all the time. She's really strong, ahead of Without a Fight, who's 6, and Deja just on a little slide back out, 7.6 now.
Yeah, that worried me with Deja, I think, a little bit, although this ground's going to be a lot more in his favour, and he's got the man on. Graeme, Rodway.
Yeah, I thought this was a tricky enough race, Dave. Another one that I wanted to give the swerve to, really. I think Without a Fight is the the horse to beat. He's got a lot of good form on softish ground. He definitely stays a trip, got course form as well. I think he's the one to beat, but he is, of course, priced accordingly. But just got an update on the Gosden situation. So Mrs. must be watching, which is absolutely amazing. Now, she never watches, but she must have caught that. And she said, no, you are talking complete nonsense. My grandma and John Gosden's mum were sisters.
So even closer. Honestly, I mean, it's not well advertised at the Supremo's operation, is it? But there we go. This is something that we can get on, and I think finally we found ourselves a Graeme Rodway brilliant trainer link. So there we are. Absolutely. If you're wondering what we're talking about, turns out that Graeme Rodway is related to the Gosdens. Who
Second
knew?
cousin. That makes it
remarkable. And I tell you what, even more remarkable is if I was your wife and I was packing you off here, I'd be like, finally, he's gone. I'd be over the moon.
We're about to jump off.
We are about to jump off in the listed Buckhound Stakes. James Millman sitting here thinking, what am I going to? Absolute madness. And we are off and running. OK, good luck wherever you played. In the Buckhound Stakes and 2:30. Love the round course on Ascot. Who's going to take it up? We can say that Gold Maze has been dropped out. Laughy, the enigmatic Laughy, loves this course with a bit of slop though. Tom Segal put him up in price this morning. He's been dropped right out the back. Surprise, surprise. Outbox. Archie Watson just took out the Oaks trial at Lingfield. Holly Doyle up there, but has company without a fight. Andrea Azzini had no option. Andrea from stall 9 has now actually taken that one perch. Has gone on. Tyson Fury. Well-named horse at the minute. He's got course form as well. Sense that there's a big day in Tyson Fury, don't you? He is up there at the moment as well. Looking back, looks like Lost Eden is up there. Got a lovely sit on the inside. Alunak, the horse for Sylvester de Souza. Barry Orr likes this one. A little bit keen in midfield with Roberto Escobar. Alba Flora. That is also out the back as well. Gold Maze, as I mentioned. I've missed one. Deja, of course, and Tribal Craft. That is the field. Let's go to James Millman as they turn out onto the far side.
Horrible position for Deja. All the high numbers have come across to the inside, but Deja has been stuck 3 wide and quite a way behind, so he's going to do well to win from there.
What sort of gallop are we looking at?
A solid gallop, as you'd expect. Outbooks is actually leading, sat in 3rd place, so the fact that he isn't leading, it shows you they're going at a nice, strong pace.
It's a good shout. Graeme Rodway.
Yeah, Andrea Azzini is very good in this sort of race, isn't he? Do you remember how many winners he had last season over like mile 6, 2 miles?
Fujiara Prince, etc.
Exactly the same position that he's got without a fight, coming out of that draw straight across, right on the shoulder, and then he would kick, turning for home, and that was it. Race over. Fujiara
Prince,
whatever it was called. Did that win the E-Ball?
It did, didn't it?
Yeah,
of course
and of course at Royal Ascot. So Azzini trying to do the same tactics.
Yeah, I'd be happy if I was drawn on the inside. I'll tell you what, Ross Orion's made a good move, James, hasn't he, on Alba Flora?
Yeah, he's just sneaked in front of yours, which is quite nice.
Yeah, absolutely, if you're on it. Tribal Craft is catching my eye. David Probert from stall 12's had a nice one. Deja, caught on the wing, not where you want to be. Roberto Escobar, outpace. I tell you what, Alba Flora is absolutely cruising. It's a case of whether it stays there. Tribal Craft could well have a say here. Alunak, that looks like it's run its race, doesn't it? Deja, what's that got? Outbox, Holly Doyle, I'm not done with yet, she says. But Alba Flora takes it up. I tell you what, Tribal Craft is coming here for Andrew Balding and David Probert. But has the bird flown? It looks like it might be the case. James Millman, I tell you what, he loves Ascot, doesn't he? Because he'll be 2 from 2 there at this point. And this is absolutely hosed up. Good night, Vienna, for the rest of the rivals. Strung out like the washing. Tribal Craft, really good run from him, in second. The pair well clear. Who's going to get third? Looks like without a fight. Eye catcher, Roberto Escobar. Have a look at him next time out. But that was one-way traffic. Barry Orr, when did the market know?
Yeah, the market knew early enough. She went off favourite, actually, 5.48, clear favourite on the Betfair Exchange. Your runner-up, Tribal Craft, a low of 3.0, 2-1 on the exchange. Your winner, Alba Flora, was 10s on when she hit the front. It was all over. Loved the ground and galloped through it, no problem.
Yeah, well, that was impressive, wasn't it? First time out, she's won both her seasons. Of course, we didn't see her at 2. Very smart performance, James. You must be delighted. You hated riding there, but you love tipping there.
I wasn't ever riding good enough horses. That was a problem.
Blame the old man again.
Excuses. But fair play. And you mentioned Jim Crowley, but Ross Orion, he's got that Ammo Racing link-up. Kia Jacobin, the football agent, who's expanding big time. Race Beckett trains a lot of his horses, and this was a nice ride for him to pick up because we just mentioned he'd just come across your choice, Roberto Escobar.
It was a really good move, wasn't it?
Got to the inside. I think she would have won wherever she was because she's quickened up strong. you'd imagine the Hardwick or something like that would be perhaps the aim at Royal Ascot, because it's a listed winner now. Kirsten Rosen keeps these fillies for black type, and she's destroyed him because Tribal Craft, he travelled into the race like a good horse. He's ruined his mark. 66 to 1 off 96.
Well, interesting that he came here. So it was a leap of faith, wasn't it? It was nibbled at as well, I saw in the market with hundreds.
To be fair, she's got black type, so they'll be happy.
So shall we look at Tribal Craft as perhaps being a benchmark, G? And does that drag the rest of the form down? Do you think it's a race that's fallen apart?
It looks like the ground's very soft, doesn't it? Just by the way they're strung out like the washing, you would say that's probably exaggerated the distances. But it can't take too much away from that winner. She's absolutely rocketed through the line. Very, very strong at the finish, Albaflora. If I was sort of from an RPR perspective, I would put a mark on that. I'd probably be thinking around 113, 114 for a Racing Post rating perspective, which would place her around a Group 3 horse already. So she's an exciting filly going forward, isn't she, Albaflora?
She obviously really likes Ascot because she's got place form there as well. I think Hardwick, she's in the Hardwick, obviously. I think the Hardwick's a good shout, James.
I think that if I was in Race Beckett's shoes, that would be where I'd be sending her. You might want a bit of giving the ground. That is the question mark, and you don't always get it at Royal Ascot, because the Musadora, where she was second on just a second start, was good to soft. And
You say you don't get it.
it
has changed a bit, hasn't it?
It's tricky. In the old days, Lincoln meeting, you'd be aiming your heavy ground horses for the first month of the year. Until this week, there's been nothing worse than good to firm. So it's been a crazy
I always
time.
remember when Wes Ward started coming over and you just discounted his 2-year-olds because you were standing there in a bucketing rain, and yet they all seemed to handle it. I mean, it's one of these tracks, G, isn't it? Some go on it, some don't. What I was really impressed with there was that mid-race move, and yet you still had 4 horses in a line about 2 furlongs out to the furlong marker, and she has still come away. It wasn't like that they were all off, in a heap turning for home, and she's just ploughed through a little bit like True Shan on Champions Day last year. Just one horse handled it, no one else did. However, that was impressive. Were you impressed out there? I think we were. Are you impressed with James's tipping? 2 from 2 at Ascot. What have we got coming up next there? Well, indeed, of course, it is just the easy Victoria Cup. What wins the Victoria Cup, James Millman?
I put Greenside up each way at a big price, and Ropey Guest to place. I can't see him winning.
Ropey is that horse today, isn't he?
What a joy to own or be involved with. You've got to be each way or place only on the Betfair market.
It seems a long time ago that he made the frame in a jersey, doesn't it? But I went for him a couple of times. I know the boys in the gallery are quite keen on him today. Lots of you out there as well. Pill Keeley put him up. I'm not sure whether Tom did as well in price-wise, but there's been a lot of tipping love out there for Ropey Guest. That's the Victoria Cup. James Millman going for an Ascot hat-trick. Greenside.
He's 10-year-old, but he likes the track, likes a bit of easy ground. Going for a couple of high draws, I'm going to have to...
Henry Candy's had a fair start to the season as well, hasn't
A
he?
really sharp start for Henry Candy. Normally it's a little bit more patient.
Absolutely.
Warwick Oaks at Nottingham, he won the other day, and a few nice ones in his yard.
We'll be back to Ascot in an hour's time then for the Victoria Cup, one of my favourite handicaps of the year. I like a couple of that. We all do indeed. Get your tips in. We've got plenty of time. We've got to go back to Lingfield, of course, and this could be a big race double, a quick double for Rafe Beckett, because he's got Scope is the name of the horse. I wanted to call it Scoop, but it is Scope. And some very famous colours, Barry Orr. Where's he sitting in the market?
Yeah, Scope currently 7.2, market headed by ADR for the boys in blue, 2.14, so just 11 to 10. Kyprios 4.9, some money for that. Carlisle Bay, his stablemate, 10.0, 17 recovery run, third round 22. They're all quoted there. Etonian, obviously a non-runner here. What I like in it though, Kyprios, he's traded 840 in a messy racing Cork last day that he got up to win. He looks really, really slow sometimes, but when the penny finally drops with him, he fairly does motor. I think he'll go on the ground. I think Carlisle Bay will set decent fractions here. He'll go off in front. And I'm going to chance Kyprios, but I'm going to lay it, and I'm going to try to back it back at a bigger price in running. So to green up here, please. G-Rod. So we're going to lay it at 4.9. Happy to take 25 quid out of it at 4.9. We're going to look to have that 25 quid back on at 21. So I'm taking a few quid out of it to begin with, and then I want to have it on at a bigger price in running because I think it'll trade bigger in running. And if it does trade big...
Cheek pieces might just sharpen up a little bit in the earlier stages. I know he's put cheek pieces on both as Aidan O'Brien.
this horse can be off the bridle after going 2 yards.
Okay.
The cheek pieces can't do any harm to him. He's a bit of an enigma.
It's the Santini of the classic world. Yeah.
I know he's that slow, but he's definitely, the cheek pieces hopefully will sharpen him up. That's what they're there for, and hopefully they do the trick. But big galloping straight like this as well is something that will really suit him. I wouldn't be surprised to see him come off it turning into the straight, but the penny will drop at him at some stage, and he should finish well and should go on the ground.
And I'm absolutely with you, Barry, on this. I think that Adayar, probably one of the shortest price horses we are covering today, that's for sure. I see the claims. He's a Frankel, isn't he, out of a Dubai mare. She was a miler, but she's related to some stouter horses, some 2 milers down the line. I can see it, but we just don't know. And at 11 to 10, a horse that's been beaten first time out, I'm not 100% sure. And I thought that Kyprios, I'm really surprised he's as big as he is. You'll remember, of course, a couple of years ago, Anthony van Dijk, but a bit of a hoodoo in this race and went and followed up at Epsom. And I just like this chap. I think that this race, I can see him coming strong, that's for sure. The cheek pieces, come to you, Graeme Rodway, on this, because this is something you must have crunched at some point. Aidan O'Brien with headgear. It didn't stop Rule of the World, did it?
No, but I did do this for the preview, yeah, and absolutely awful record, Aidan O'Brien, when he fits first-time cheek pieces. Since 2016, he's fitted 55 runners with first-time cheek pieces, only 3 have won.
I tell you what, you're on fire today. It was a seamless thing. Usually I have to see you grab your brain and all that sort of thing. But
he's put cheek pieces on both of these, doesn't it? So I don't know what that tells you. I suspect that it tells you that he doesn't put cheek pieces on his good horses. Would you say?
If you're trying to produce a sire, you don't want anything to crab them for the future. And rightly or wrongly, headgear on a horse for their stallion career isn't seen as a negative because basically they're not concentrating enough. So if you've got a superstar, you're not going to put headgear on. If you want to try and find a few pounds because they're not as good as you want them to be, that's when you're going to stick it on. And like I say, on both of them, I might just put Carlisle Bay, because he's going to be hopefully given a lead. He might be one to back now and lay in the run, because Barry's pretty keen Kyprios is going to be off the bridle. A lot of these miss the break and they don't really travel that well. So if Frankie in front, easy lead, like we saw in the Oaks trial, I know it didn't work out, I would imagine he'll be our leader. So I'll probably back him now, Carlisle Bay, and have him as a lay in running.
That's the Millman play.
That good position.
You can come back. You can come back, Mr. Millman. I like that.
Oh, there you go. Absolutely. He backed your last winner.
He put Sishy in, so I've got to big him up there.
Oh, you know what, is there a stable tour coming in the offing and everything down there? It's not all over yet. Now, Carlisle Bay, let's just talk about this, because Robley, our senior producer, goes, we were talking right at the start when I came into the office, he goes, is that the one that hates the stalls? And if you remember when he won on his debut at Tipperary last October, you just go in the comments and running, you'll see he reared in the stalls. He overcame it that day. Of course, he then went to Leopardstown for the Airfield Stakes in October, one of the back-end races, behind Flying Visit of Jim Bulgers, and really lost it in the stalls, I think. So we need to watch him down at the start, watch the market.
Frankie's going to be nervous.
Frankie, yeah.
He's not a spring chicken anymore.
No, absolutely.
Want them to be naughty in the stalls. He's probably reading that in the old Racing Post comments and sitting in that way and just wondering what's going to happen.
Did you see his flying dismount yesterday, on which is, a pertinent horse, because Kyprios, of course, is related to
Falcon 8,
who took out the Chester Cup. Yes, it was great to see that, wasn't it? Just the old firm, if you like.
30 years.
30 years,
race before.
Remarkable. He couldn't remember the name of the horse or anything like that, could he? And he said that Dermot Weld had booked him. What was really interesting about Frankie's post-race interview in the Post from our reporters and on television as well, I was listening to him. He said he booked me for this 3 weeks ago. We've got some, and he said I love it how Frankie does that. We've got some lofty plans for this horse, later on Cadrans and things like that. But of course, in those Moy-Glare colours, which Kyprios rides. But Frankie Zori, of course, took out Mother Earth on the in the 1,000 guineas. Lots of people think he will probably be on the right one in the Derby. They think it's just going to click. It's great to see this association back up, isn't it?
It is. It's amazing considering he used to ride for the opposition for so many years. And I think, was it in the Arc when he rode?
It was in the Ledger, wasn't it?
He rode one for Bayador, and that in the end was the final.
That was the one.
Coffin of the Godolphin.
Shane Mohammed was not over the moon with that, was he? No. And Scorpion, who know that he'd be riding the dodgiest jump sire out there. Old Scorpion.
I expect
that
Scorpion will have gear on at some point. I would imagine it wouldn't have been a surprise.
So let's just stick on that for a little bit after we get Graham's selection for this. Is this a race that you did like?
Yeah, I did quite like this race, because obviously I've already I can't have the 2 O'Brien horses on the back of that stat. And
Your cousin hasn't got a runner, so where are we going?
We'll be all right. Adayar, I thought, was eminently beatable. Now, he has got the highest RPI in the race, 108, but I didn't really like that race last time.
Hills is all over this horse today. You know?
Is he? What, he thinks he'd definitely win? Now, it was an eye-catching run, I'll give you that. I mean, he was off, he was out the back, looked inexperienced, made up a lot of ground.
Yeah.
So the front 2 were always in the first 2 positions.
Typical Sandown race.
And Sandown is not an easy place to do that. It's not easy to come down the outside and make up the ground he did. However, the time is not amazing, and I like Rafe Beckett's runner, Scope, who's related to, look here, she's from the same, he's from the same family, and obviously Rafe Beckett's never won the Derby trial, but he has won the Oaks trial 3 different times. And look here, didn't win the Oaks trial. She was second in it before she went on to win. So there's no doubt he likes to run his better horses in these sort of trials at Lingfield. And first time up, won on heavy ground. So that the going here is not going to be any sort of issue. And last time at Newmarket, run to an RPI 95. So got £13 final value. But I thought definitely shaped as though he was feeding the ground. Because he was coming down the dip and then he was hanging away all the way towards the finish. And I thought that he was definitely feeling quick ground that day. So back on a softer surface, I think you'll see improvement from Scope.
Yes, I must admit I do quite like him. It was a good run last time, wasn't it? Into the dip. Maybe it was the ground, very possible. Sort of associate Beckett with sort of, obviously we've just seen him take out at a Buckhound Stakes, but easy ground and Beckett horses you've got no problems with, have you? Mark of 89, they could have gone handicap Royal Ascot, gone slowly with him, you know. I bet the winner that day, that Al Wakidi of Charlie Appley's, I've got a feeling that might be quite a good race.
Yeah, you mentioned that Mark of 89, Duke of Edinburgh would have been a lovely race for him, a 1.5 handicap. Yeah. You'd imagine it'd be blown in this race, and I concur with both of your comments. I think the Big Bear is spot on about the ground. Interesting that he misses a break a little bit as well, as quite a few of these are tricky in the gates, but heavy ground at Newbury when he won, and it was absolutely bottomless. So going from that to a very quick surface, it was proper quick ground at the Craven meeting. You'd imagine more in the middle today. It's got to seem in a better light than what he did at Newmarket last time, and that wasn't a bad effort on the time either.
He's a very interesting horse, isn't he? Do you know what? I was half worried about him staying. I mean, Rafe Beckett would probably be spitting feathers if you heard that. But again, going back to what I said about looking at your pedigrees early with over these 3-year-olds, I'll get to that in a second because we have some viewer interaction coming on the screen. And Thomas Harris comes back on. Recovery Run could be a dark horse if he replicates last season. All right, let's talk about this Recovery Run. Andrew Balding, Oisin Murphy, a very consistent horse last year. What happened last time? He was, of course, way off Adayar, wasn't he? Let's have a little look. I wasn't totally sure about the ground. Was he going to stay? That was another one I thought as well.
Ground would be all right. He had a soft in Newmarket.
Nathaniel, pivotal mare, going to be fine on the ground, isn't he?
It just wasn't a very good run, was it, at Sandown? He jumped out, was in a fairly decent position, lost his place, and then tailed off.
I tell you what, if Thomas takes this out as well, he's odds on for a seat in here, isn't he? I think having one with Sherbet Lemon on the last. Yeah, go on, Barry.
I was just going to say Recovery Run. He traded at 14-1 on that day in Newmarket, and he traded at 5-2 on in Kempton the time before that, and was beat both times.
He got beat off 83 in a handicap as well at Kempton.
This is a game that Barry loves to play. We all have our games. I get the programme book out. G likes to run his stats and all that sort of thing. And Barry likes to tell us about horses that have traded short and not produced the goods. And it's annoying how many times he's right.
Well, they tend to follow it up, don't they? That's the trouble. The only good thing, I thought Carlisle Bay could be a back to lay. Oisin is probably the sharpest jockey when it comes to tactics, and there's a potential.
Is that right?
I would say he's very, very sharp. And he'll look at that race. Carlisle Bay can miss the break and get upset in the stalls. A lot of these have been held up. Third Realm was held up in his maiden win at Nottingham. If there's no lead going on, I know it's not his normal run style, but Oisin would be one to look at that. I think I can still a race that perhaps the horse isn't good enough to win. So it's a race full of question marks, but I wouldn't put you off Recovery Run on that angle, despite the poor run last time.
And
we just saw a race like that, didn't we, really? The horse probably wasn't good enough to win it one. The Oaks trial, sure, but I mean, I don't want to take too much away from her, but we thought the best horse was in third, but Sherbet got the best ride, was in the right place the whole way and stayed best. Yeah,
the books weren't impressed. She's 50s into 33s, Barry, I think I saw, didn't I, with you guys on the sports book for the Oaks?
Yeah, 33 from 66 with us for the Oaks. That makes you be troubling anyone in Epsom.
Look, listen. If you like her, we're not dumbing it down. I guess the one thing you'll have in your favourite Oaks is, she'll be there turning in because she's a very uncomplicated filly, isn't she? Have we talked about them all? Third Realm, we must talk about, of course, for a very strong firm. David Mishriff Egan, riding, of course, for He Who Must Be Obeyed. And Roger Varian. Did you like that?
I thought that was actually quite good there, to be fair.
Listen, I've got a few of them, James. This Third Realm, the form was advertised last night, actually. Old School Tiger Beetle improved on his fifth behind him last time. Immelman came out. There was a 20-1 shot behind him that day and placed in a pretty good maiden, I think, at Chester as well this week. So it's there. Do you like to see more money with the Varian horses?
The race has actually worked out better than I thought it would because I was there and I didn't think it was a particularly great race. But what was key, Immelman and Tiger Beetle were the two that have improved, arguably in their second start. They were both badly placed. You don't want to be at the back at Nottingham when they're going slow. Third Realm, he actually did well to make up a lot of ground. Interesting they've stepped him up to this kind of race, but you can just see him in there. He's a little bit hesitant to go forward into the stalls. He's not entirely straightforward and your money angle. A little bit nibbles, but he is quite a big price.
He's half-brother to Ostilio, who you mentioned earlier on, and Kate Byron as well. Ashman Prince, a great family, isn't it?
Kate Byron's just after winning, isn't he, in Haydock?
Has he won?
Just won in he won in Haydock, yeah.
He beat Brando, did he? Yeah, okay, yeah, we didn't see that, Barry. Okay, Kate Byron is back then. They'll be going for another tilt probably at the Diamond Jubilee, won't they? And Third Realm, if this isn't the handicap in the making for...
well, he should be a Royal Ascot handicap, but they're going to ruin it.
You could see a nice third or fourth in this, couldn't you? And then being put away for
If you've got that plan, you don't run in this.
You don't think so?
You can't run in a great race if you've got a handicap down the
line.
line.
Do you need, once you win a novice after your second run, do you need to run again?
It depends if you were in the first four, I think.
Okay.
They've not given him a mark anyway, either way.
All these rules, which is James is here to help us with, of course, being an assistant trainer and ex-jockey, knows all about them. And I must admit, I had forgotten that after 3 runs of the 3-year-old, you can't go back to the novice company.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that, by the way. Anyway, we are off and running any second now for the 250. Will we see a Derby winner? Let's hope we see something special. They are off and running. And guess what? Carlisle Bay, absolutely fine behaviour. Those cheek pieces. What a strike rate. He must have a Gyprios. Gyprios is up there as well. So, listen, they're both on their best behaviour. The rule of the world, here we come. 1-2 then for Ballydoyle at the moment. Third Realm just out the back track to tad wide. Scope's got a lovely run. Adayar, yeah, he's up there today. And Recovery Run, who we thought might go on, hasn't been able to get to the front. He's out the back as well. Now, this is where you expect James Millman, isn't it? For Frankie Dettori out in front on the far side to once again drop the anchor.
I think my back to lane might come in because he's in exactly the right place. He's behaved in the stalls. And if you're on Kyprios, you're going to be happy because Ryan is actually, he's niggling away a little bit, but he's travelling much better than he has in the past. The rest, like their running styles normally, they're all happy to take a lead, but Frankie's already having a little look.
Let's come to you, Barry, then, because this is not what we were expecting from Kyprios.
No, well, he'll start rowing now in a couple of strides. Don't you worry about that. 2.2.
Here comes the row.
Here we go. 4.3 Kyprios, Scope 7, 8.4 Carlisle Bay at a Betfair SP of 7.6. But your favourite hardening all the time, 2.26 now at a Betfair SP at 2.46.
Still green, isn't he, G Scope, because he's back on the bridle there. But the favourite has had an ideal run so far.
Oh, the favourite's completely opposite passage to what he had last time. Last time Mr. Break was in position Z and flew home. This time he's in an absolute super position, isn't he? Just behind the two Aidan O'Brien horses, sat there ready to strike. He's going to be hard to beat from here, Adayar, you would say. And
you have to imagine with Frankie, we think, James, he'll probably come more towards the centre, maybe not quite down it. But what's William Buick going to do? Because he's got Ryan Moore on his outside.
Favourite, we're coming round the bend.
Is he going to go on the outside? Scope's not done with, by the way. Recovery Run looks like the one who's just struggling slightly. Here comes Third Realm with
picking up well, yeah.
So Carlisle Bay just off it as they turn in then. Kyprios, they have come off the inside, which means that Adayar's going to have to come between horses, but he's back on the bridle. I'll tell you what, Hershey Murphy's been forced down the inside again. Third Realm's coming. Is Third Realm just about taking it up?
I think he has.
He has, hasn't he? And away he goes. I'll tell you what, I'm thinking this was a handicap, but I'll tell you what, Kyprios looks like he'll be running in the Ida next season. He's gone right out the back at the moment. Carlisle Bay, no good whatsoever as he trained on. This is stand side action, green as you like. Third Realm, really really impressive. They're not going to catch him. Scope once again catching the eye. Have I potentially got the wrong handicap? Royal Ascot horse. Adyar coming back. David Egan having a look, but it's too late. Adyar brings some decent form to the table. Has run a nice race. Good looking sort. The pair clear. Third realm. Impressive, James Millman.
Very impressive. No handicaps going forward for him. He's won that well. David Egan was looking the wrong shoulder because he was looking for dangers on the left-hand side. The only one was on his right, but not good enough.
He's bred to be smart, isn't he? He's got speed in the family, we know that. He's in the King Edward, the Group 2, but this is surely, he was 100 to 1 to the Derby. We'll see what Barry Orr makes of that after this. You've got to be going there now, haven't you?
You'd imagine so, his connections. See the Stars brings that stamina in because, like I say, it's pretty speedy on the damn side, apart from his influence. But he's made a nice move around the outside. The race has kind of fallen apart. And again, the Ballydor 3-year-olds, colts anyway, they are stopping so quickly. Carlisle Bay beat very, very quickly. And Ryan's a little bit travelled better. Kyprios has not finished his race off 1 iota.
We didn't see that coming, G, did we?
No, we didn't, and it was impressive, wasn't it? The way that he made up his ground so quickly from the rear, off that final bend, and it was never in doubt once he got to the front. He just left them for dead, and obviously High Rise won it, didn't he, in those colours? He won the Lingfield Derby trial before going on to win the Derby itself. So I don't think he's a forlorn hope in the Derby, do you? He won that well.
Let's go to Barry Orr and give us some more.
He's 16 from 100 for the Derby.
Woo.
He's put himself right into the picture there with that win. I think it was very, very convincing. I don't know whether he's Graeme dependent, the horse, but he's got through that okay. It's still a murky picture, obviously, till we see the Derrenstown and the Dante then next week. But the runner-up traded at 5 to 1 on and running, and for the second consecutive race in Lingfield, the Ragged Field wins. The Betfair SP is 16.5 to winner.
There we go. Third realm then. Was that? No, of course it was recovery a run for Thomas Irish, isn't it? So Adyar, Graeme. Let's before we move on, we've got Swinton Hurdle coming up. What is it? Around about 3 at Haydock. Before we go there, let's talk about the form of this race. And what sort of rating do you think he's going to get? Do you think he's going to get like a peripheral Derby rating?
Yeah, it's quite a difficult one, isn't it? Adyar, we had 108 before that race, and he's beaten him a couple of lengths. If you say that Adyar's run to form, then you're probably looking around 112, 113, would you say? Maybe
James,
a bit more?
Would you probably downgrade the Classic trial?
Yeah, you could.
A little bit, maybe put 105.
It's possible that was a bit high.
And then but you could argue he could have won by 3 or 4 lengths, because David Egan wasn't particularly stretching him out.
He was still green, wasn't he?
And he's improved a lot from Nottingham. It's a big step up. So we've not seen the best of him by any stretch.
The one thing that you wouldn't want to do too quickly is downgrade the form, though, because you do want to give these races a chance to show that maybe you were right first time. You know, you want to be absolutely certain that it wasn't wrong.
Yes.
You know.
It was just a shock at the price. The Haggis team didn't particularly think he was that good.
In the
20 to 1.
Alecanar was
Exactly.
Yeah.
And watching it, you would said the Godolphin horse was unlucky on that occasion, yet today he's had a perfect trip and has clearly been put in his place.
We don't give up on Scope, do we, G? This could well be. I mean, there's a nice handicap in him, isn't there? What, he's going to go up £5 at least for that, you would imagine.
Yeah, it wasn't good enough, was he?
He just green, not totally handled the track. He looked a little bit forlorn on the far side. He came off back on it.
Do you think that he was green or just a bit slow?
Slow, and he hung a little bit at Newmarket and we put that down to the ground, but he hasn't entirely.
It's interesting that Rafe's run him on 2 undulating courses, isn't it, so far? So he's obviously a well-balanced horse at home. But listen, what did you make of that? Third realm. Will he be opening up at Epsom on the first weekend in June? In fact, it's the 5th. We will be covering a whole of the Epsom meeting, God willing, at Epsom next month. We really cannot wait for that. I think we've just seen a very nice horse. And don't forget, Anthony Van Dyke showed it can be done. Lingfield to, of course, Epsom. We've got the Chartwell Filly Stakes coming up at 3:25. That's our next race at Epsom. Wasn't it interesting that at Lingfield, sorry, that they came stand side as well? Will we see the Golden Highway in operation in the Chartwell over the Straight 7? Let us know what you fancy for that at 3:25. But we must go jumping because it is the Grade 2 Swinton Hurdle. And there you are. Grade 3.
Grade 3.
Okay, Grade 3. I was going a little bit higher there. The Pertemps Network, Swinton Hurdle, won by some really smart horses over the years. Speed test, Barry Orr, it's been wide open. The rain has come to Haydock, and it's really mucked up Connections' plans.
Yeah, it really has. Yeah, Coppel is your favourite, though, the head of the market, 5.30 at the moment. Shanrow, 7.8, Camp Brand, Ballinesker 11-12, Roland Wards, and it's 13.5 bar them. Obviously, 3 non-runners here brings your field down to the 14. But Copperless is one that I'm going to take on. Just stepped at the hurl in Aintree, was travelling like a winner before coming down. Trade at a low at 2.30. Had been a non-runner a couple of runs before that. They gave the excuse of the ground those times as well. Had won in Taunton off 117. He's rated 126 now. I think he's exposed, and I think he's worth taking a chance in the winning place. So just going to take 25 quid out of him in the win market, please, G-Rod. And also we're going to take a few quid out of him, 25 quid as well, in the standard place market, which is 3 places. I'm going to take 25 quid out of him there at 1.84. So happy to be a layer in that market as well.
Okay, 25 lay on Copperless and 25 lay in the place market as well. 3 places.
Yeah, about 1.85.
Yeah, and that's been matched.
Okay, trade is on then. All right, we've got a couple of interesting horses from a handicapping point of view here, haven't we? Camprond, of course, went up £9 for would he have beaten Roland?
Well, 9 and 10, Roland Ward and Camprod first and second. Only £3 rise for Copperless.
That's the one, isn't it?
Speaking to Ollie Murphy a couple of days afterwards, they felt it would win, and Barry mentioned 2.3 or something. That one hit him running, was going very, very well when coming down 2 out. Big step up on Copperless's previous form. They backed him in that race, mind, at Aintree, as they expected the money to be landed 9-2 joint favourite. He went off that. So I think Barry's being brave, because there was plenty of water on at Aintree.
He's a presenting mare as well, isn't he? And presenting, he's a jump style that you associate with top of the ground. His Cave Tara, they just don't know, I think. So
they've got to give it a go.
Yeah.
They had avoided it, and as Barry pointed out, been withdrawn previously, but it wasn't quick at Aintree by any stretch.
And what you know about this horse is you're pretty sure that there's a big payday in him somewhere on the line. Is this the Millman selection?
I'm probably not going to go through him. I just perhaps wouldn't be brave enough to. I'm going to stick with a winner, actually. Roland Ward, whose dam won the Lingfield Oaks trial for Race Beckett on a bound.
My goodness.
A few years ago.
Yeah.
Stuart Edmonds absolutely flying at the back end. He had a bit of a poor mid-season, but the horses were well handicapped. And this one...
He had that double at Aintree, didn't he, of course? Hightown, was it Hightown? Hometown Boy.
That's the one.
Thank you,
in the yellow and blue colours. And yes, 10 Man Rise is harsh. Kieran Geffens gets back on board. He knows him well. He was second to Edward Stone at Market Race. I thought that was a good bit of form off a £5 lower mark. I'd back him each way, I think. I think he's one that's going to be in the frame. He's very consistent once he's in form. £10 rise is a lot, but you know he's going to go on the ground. He's run on heavy at the Market Race behind Edward Stone, so he would be my angle into the contest. I'm just a little bit concerned if you're going to lay Copperless that they do think it's very well handicapped.
This race had a habit of going to something which had been running in some of the best handicaps, and you sort of forget about them a little bit. However, the last time it was won in 2019 was by a horse called La Patriote, which was the last time out winner for Dr. Richard Newland. Evan Williams has got a great record in this race, G, isn't he? He's won it 4 times out of the last 10. And there was a right gamble on Balinska, his horse with Adam Wedge. Good to see Adam back in the saddle. However, that's surely they've been waiting for good ground with this horse.
Probably. It does appear to have been laid out for this race, and they're probably very disappointed to see the weather forecast. But, I mean, the form with Milkwood is very good, isn't it? Milkwood's obviously a very solid handicapper who's gone up a lot in the weight since then. I actually fancied Balinska for that race. I think I tipped him. Milkwood did brush him aside quite easily. But, yeah, been a bit disappointing since then, and was 50-1 for the Betfair hurdle last time. And, yeah, never showed there. I mean... The Copperless angle was one that did catch my eye. I did run some figures on this, because I'm always interested about whether these horses that are unlucky do actually pay to follow them next time.
Okay.
Because a lot of people, well, I was having this discussion with David Jennings yesterday, and I said, do you think he would have won because he really fancied him? And he was like, oh, hard to say. And yeah, I just run out some stats on fallers that are traded at less than, more than 60% shorter than their Betfair SP in running. So basically horses that looked like they were going to win and then fell next time out, and their stats weren't that good. I think it was 4 winners from 30.
You never know what you're going to get with a faller, do you?
Is that in the next start?
On their next time out start after falling when
not great,
likely to win. So I mean, I think that Copperless traded at 2.3 in running that day from a Betfair SP of 8.4.
So yeah, so there has been a last time out faller that's won this, John Constable in 2017, justified favouritism for Evan Williams. Look, Coppolas, a clear round, sharp track, going to be fine. Getting the trip, I mean, if you've got a horse that you're not sure about getting the trip here, you run them at Haydock, don't you, in places like that. And Defining Battle hasn't quite got home on his 2 starts. Of course, if you match him with Camprond, he's probably pretty well handicapped. He went too hard at Taunton, 2 back in his novice, and Camprond picked him up. And then he went to Ayr last time. A lot of you would have seen got beaten in short finish where they attacked again. Probably a little bit too soon. The ground looks like it's a problem for him. I'm really glad that they're letting him take his chance. Next season, I think there's a really good prize in him. I've come down on Cormier for Brian Ellison, who was also put up in the Greatwood Hurdle. It was won by the Shunter back in November, you'll remember, when we covered that on Cheltenham. He just got too far back that day when he ran on for 7th. They then went to Ascot the last time we saw him, and he just got lost. Don't worry about horses getting lost in those big handicaps at Ascot. It happens time and time again. He's won at Fakenham. He's a soft ground winner on the flat. In fact, he hit a bit of a purple patch. This is just the sort of prize that Brian Ellison likes to plot up for. I'm not worried about him fresh. He's got the champion conditional Denny McMenamin on him as well. Cormier at a price for me. And he's been nibbled at, hasn't he, I think, Barry? Cormier?
Yeah, he has been. He's into 17.5. Now, one of the outsiders I was given a bit of a chance to, and he's a horse that we discussed in length the last time he ran, Celestial Force. He was favoured for that race at one stage in Sandown, if you remember, the novice final of the hurl final for the novices. And although he drifted out on the day, they thought that the ground had gone against him that day, if you recall. It finished up really, really good ground in Sandown on the finale day. And he ran okay, it has to be said. He only beaten a little over 10 lengths. Lorcan Williams rode him, but he sneaks in at the bottom here, and he'll love the soft ground. He's good form on it over on the flat. Yeah. And at a big price, I think he could run well. Celestial Force.
He is interesting, Barry, because they campaign him like a sort of summer jumps horse, but you're right, he has got that Nottingham slot form, hasn't he? So Celestial Force, yeah, and Bryony and Paul have been having a real hot patch, haven't they? So, yeah, perhaps he's been overlooked a little bit by the market. Gee, what did you think was actually going to win?
I thought this was another race to swerve, Dave. I thought it was another race to watch. Very difficult this time of year. And the ground going at Haydock. Now, we have to be interested. Like, is it going to be Haydock heavy in the middle of May? There's not going to be surely Haydock December heavy in the same way there would be Haydock heavy in the middle of winter. So just how soft is it going to be? Very difficult to tell. And also, like you've already pointed out, Dave, a lot of these horses would have been planned out for this race a long way in advance, thinking, well, it's the middle of May, it's the Swinton hurdle. Yeah. If we're going to get good ground anywhere, it'll be there. So there also are a lot of horses who are going to be running because it's their last target, but might not necessarily be suited by the ground. So for me, it was another watching brief.
Just what absolutely, yeah, fair enough. Maybe get involved in running or something like that. So we're not sure what we're going to get with the ground. A lot of these horses, like G said, have been plotted with a spring campaign. There is an Irish horse in here, Barry, of course, Shanroe, who got hammered for winning as he liked last time out. He won't mind the ground.
No, he'll enjoy the ground as well. He's not one that I've particularly taken to. He's top weight here, isn't he? He's Stable's in good form, it has to be said. Donald Myler's a good booking as well. But last day when he won off 123, and he's 137 now. So, yeah, he's gone up nearly a stone. He hadn't showed much before that either in Down Royal. It was a decent novice handicap hurl, or novice hurl that he handicap hurl Papal Lodge won. But I'd look elsewhere. I'd look past him in this.
Well, I mean, you've got Carl Thornton moaning about his Irish mark and then being given another £7 by the handicapper. But we know what happens this season. The sole Irish runner probably goes and wins, doesn't it? There's been good money for Shanroe. And he looks like he's going to line up pretty prominently as well. Just want to see Defining Battle up there a little bit prominently as well.
There's a second Irish runner in it, actually. Politis.
Of course. Politicise. Sorry, you're quite right.
Politicise. Sorry, Aldo McGuinness.
Yeah, who Kevin Morley gave a good mention to in his trend column in the paper today, saying ticks a lot of boxes. He won't mind the ground either, I don't think. Surprised he's Scarlet Dragon, the absolute outsider for Tom Cannon. Has he just become one of those Scarlet Dragons? Just doesn't know how to win anymore.
Did he win last year at Royal Ascot? Is that
Holly Doyle was first.
Yeah, when Holly Doyle gave him a masterful ride.
Pretty soft ground.
From the back.
It was.
Yeah, I like those. I think he's got a lot of talent. You know, he's a big price, isn't he?
Yeah, mark of, what is he 132? Yeah, he is. Historic Art's a horse that I quite like. Any news? Again, Neil Marlin, trainer Milkwood, got a line on a few of these. Pulled up last time, didn't he? But, that would have been at Aintree, wouldn't it? But he looked like a horse at the start of the season. So it's a fairly deep race. And we're going to have a bit of a chat through this as well. This time next year, for the Spencers was well fancied at Ascot. He didn't come up good, but he's entitled to come on from that as well. Nordic Combined. I said yesterday, there's not a lot combined about Nordic. He's got his own ideas, fair to say. But he did win last time, and he will love the ground as well.
Just say about the ground, Del Arco won our first race of the day at Haydock. So you weren't covering it. Now, he has won on good twice. So if
you associate him as a winter horse, don't you?
In recent times, he's become more effective on a quicker surface. So for the jumpers, I don't think it'd be too bad. The flat horses are struggling there. But yeah. I think the jumpers, yes, you're declaring, expecting good ground, good to soft at worst. But I think a lot of them will cope with it quite easily. Lots
been said about the ground and the going sticks, etc. at Haydock this weekend. They were wildly varying. The flat basically heavy and the jumping good. Now you can see that at these different tracks, can't you? But it's quite obvious that the watering can has come out at some point. We've had the driest, basically, springtime that we can possibly remember. Loads of small fields everywhere. Everyone's saying we want some rain before we get the big fields. Lo and behold, a little bit of rain. It turns heavy. Is that acceptable, G?
You probably can't help it, can they? You know, it's the middle of May, you've got to put water on, you can't have it coming out massively quick. So when the rain comes, you're kind of a bit beholden to fortune, really, and they haven't been very lucky again, have they? But they never seem to be very lucky at Haydock.
Well, that's what everyone says about Haydock. Is it their geographical position or something? You never quite know what you want to get. I seem to remember earlier in the season it was snowing there, and we weren't sure if they were going to run or not. But
remember that car they ran over Christmas once, where you could barely see anything.
One of the places.
Yeah, you can only see the last half.
That happen? Yeah, you can get that at Ascot as well, can't you? And a couple of others.
Exeter is terrible for that, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, definitely. We get it in Ireland as well, don't we? It was the famous John Durkham, wasn't it? Which Min won, of course.
I think Patrick was riding, wasn't there?
And we had to ask him what happened in the final furlong, basically. Racing, the greatest game of all. All right, so we are. It looks like is Coppolis just having a bit of a slide, Barry, just before they jump off.
Yeah, Nordic Combines is the one they all want to be with. 9.4 now. Copperless out to 6. 7.6 Shanrow. He's nearly favourite for money now, Shanrow. But Nordic Combines, the big gamble in the race from 15.
6 runners in the past 10 years, 2 places to the pipes. So we won this plenty before when Martin was training in Balinska. The gamble, early gamble, when the anti-post marker comes up straight to the front on a random wedge. They're going a right old gallop here, aren't they? They're already right straight out of the back. Cormier, my selection, out the back. Scarlet Dragon, ridden right cold. Looks like this time next year out there as well. Campron out the back as well. Balinska going a right gallop. Despite the fact that we're not sure whether he really gets the trip this defining battle for the Skeltons. He's right up there in second at the moment. Politicised, the other Irish runner that Barry flagged up. He's there. Historic Heart, really good winner at Perth last time. He's there, the 4-year-old. Shanrow up there, he likes to attack, he'll stay all day. Nordic Combined, the late Gamble in midfield, Run Merrick in midfield. Coppolis on the inside. Cormier, as I said, out the back. That's pretty much the field, I think. James Millman.
Yeah, they will be pretty happy. Whoever you've backed, Scarlet Dragon, the old boys, a little bit keen at the back of the field. They're going quite quick, it's just that jump jockeys don't think the ground is proper winter heavy. I think
it doesn't look it, does it, underfoot?
It's nice jumping ground, I'd say.
Yeah.
More what you'd associate with February, March, but I think that'll be all right.
OK, it's just a flat where it looks really testing them up at Haydock. That does look like fair ground, doesn't it, G?
Yeah, it looks fine, doesn't it? And there was a lot of money for Nordic Combined just before the off, I think, because he was lining up fairly prominent, but he didn't get a great start and then kicked the first 2 flights out the way, and now he's right at the back. So I suspect he might be on the drift, but Balinska getting a nice easy lead, would you say?
Yes, very much so. And again, they'll be happy that it's not softer than they thought after that deluge of rain. He's a horse that you thought, running Betfair hurdles, that sort of stuff, that you thought might have one in him. And Evan Williams bidding for a 5th win in the last 11 years. Scarlet Dragon taking a pull out the back. Defining battle. Looks like they've just slowed it up, James, to my eye.
They have. Now, Aidan Carman's got a horse that's travelling very well, Coppolis. I think this one's going to trade very short in running. Will the stamina last out, and will she get it, or will he get over the last couple of obstacles?
Yeah, and is he doing a bit too much? Let's go to Barry as they're on the far side. Any spikes, Barry?
Yeah, well, he's 5.3. You can back him in running if you fancy him. Copperless. Balancer is 8. 9.2 Nordic Combined. Now, Comia, your horse, 6.2. He's coming in all the time.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, he's a horse that has a turn of foot as well. And it's just about with Cormier having him there 2 out. This is, of course, the run-in that changes complexions. We see it. They think it's a sharp track. But just when you think you're home on the run-in, it really does change. OK, we're getting ready to go around what Nick Schofield told me was a right angle of a bend. The tightest bend in jump racing, which is remarkable when you think we've got the likes of Fakenham out there for them to ride around. It looks like this time next year, probably the one that's struggling a little bit. All to play for, G-Rod.
Yeah, they're all lining up, aren't they? Nordic Combine's come through the field quite nicely. Defining is still there. Balinska pushing away now, so they look like they're going to sprint now.
Yeah, it's interesting, these tactics on Defining Battle. They must be not worried about
Coppolus is
the track.
cruising. Coppolus is absolutely double
look at Cormier
helpful.
as well. This is what I wanted to see. His fitness with him, isn't it? It was Shanroe just feeling the pinch a little bit. What's this on the near side?
Nordic Combined.
This is Nordic Combined down the outside. I tell you what, it's like a scrum. It's like a rugby scrum coming to 2 out. Who's going to go out? He's game, isn't he? Balinska out front. Cormier a little bit
6-4
hampered there.
Coppolus.
Oh, I tell you what, it got really rough there.
6-4 on now, Coppolus.
Aidan Coleman's thinking to himself, just wait, Ado, just wait. Got very rough there between Any News and Cormier. Cormier's on a blind or whatever's happened. Scarlet Dragon, is that him there? The outside of the lot. Look at Cormier coming too late. It's going to be too late. This is absolutely stretch clear. Cormier's going to be the big eye catcher of the pack. Camprond, handicapper was right, but the Aintree form, well advertised. They knew that day. They've got it back. It looks like Cormier's going to win the battle for second. Really happy with that run. That puts him on track. And, of course, it looks like Campron will be your benchmark back there. And Roland Merrick, I want to say Roland Merrick, Roland Ward in fourth. James Millman.
Yeah, he travelled like a dream, Coppolus, throughout the contest. Ollie Murphy was absolutely gutted. This horse came down Aintree. He thought he would win pretty comfortably. Only at £3. Roland Ward went up 10. Campron went up 9. That form's strong. And he's won it doing handstands.
Let's look back in the run. As they showed it to us, it just went perfectly for him. I guess when they just moved off the inside a little bit, away we go. And that was a real turn of foot, G.
Yeah, I don't know about 9-2 favourite. It should have been 5-4 favourite, shouldn't it? I mean, you won't see a handicap hurdle won as easily as that. I mean, James called it, to be fair, halfway round saying how well he was travelling. And he was still travelling just as well coming to the last, wasn't it?
It was a worry travelling too well. And that must show you 126. He's got to be a 140 horse at least.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's just a case of whether they go sailing over the big uns next season.
Well, I think there's no doubt he would have won at Aintree.
You got the Greatwood. You've got to probably go Greatwood first.
That's interesting. Yeah, good shout.
Then decide if you want to go chasing or
They'll probably open it doesn't get too soft, won't they? Presenting Copper, did she like it softer? She was a good horse, wasn't she?
She was for the Hobbs, wasn't it?
That's the dam of Coppolus. So, he looks a very smart prospect, doesn't he?
Yeah, so a handicap, good thing. Blot, £3. Handicap will be thinking, well, probably should have gone up a little bit with that. Camprond probably thinking, so hang on a minute, I went up 9 for a full. He finishes in third. Really happy with the run of Cormier there. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. What did you go for? Let us know. We've still got time to talk. We're around about, 10 minutes away from our next, the Chartwell at Lingfield. We've then got, of course, the Victoria Cup, the Cavalry Charge coming your way. One more from Lingfield, and back to Ascot we go as well. Hot pot in the last coming up. Barry Orr, that got really tight there, around about 2 out. Was it haywire?
No, not really. He's 6-4 on. He traded at 2 out. He was that short, and then he was 10s on jumping the last. So he travelled well throughout, didn't he? Really, when James Flaggy, you could still back him at 5.3 mind, but. He's well ahead of the handicapper off the back of that, but I'm sure he'll go up plenty. Yeah,
it looks okay. Yeah, what are we thinking for that? 10?
12.
Yeah. 12. Yeah, 10 or 12.
The problem is...
A hefty hike.
He was just doing it so easily. And they were probably lucky because the handicapper couldn't judge effectively where he would have finished at Aintree. But they were happy he would have won, so he in effect had a 7-man in hand with Roland Ward. And that's probably about right because Roland Ward's run solid. Didn't quite pick up as I expected on the outside. Comprana's run well. It's just a strong field. Cormier's in unlucky really to meet such well handicapped.
Yeah, there was a big concertina. I was watching him obviously because I was on him. He got nearly stopped, I think, coming to the last. But listen, strong Swinton hurdle we have had. Have we just seen the Greatwood winner? Very interesting stuff indeed. I guess when you blow your handicap mark like that, at least it gets you into these better races. You could be looking at Betfair later on.
Yeah, and you do have to be rated quite highly to get into them now, don't you? As James would have said, maybe even Silent Cecil might have got some of the races that he did get in.
And of course, he's shown himself to be versatile regards ground as well. Big ticks then. Well done if you kept the faith with Coppolus after Aintree. Rewarded. Just shows you've got to stick with these projects, doesn't it? Shall we go to Lingfield then? 7 furlongs. Let's change sphere. Our one jump race out the way for the day. All back on the flat we are. There you can see the market. A race I've always loved this. And who's going to go off favourite? Wow, Paul Keeley yesterday said one of my most confident picks of the day will be Isabella Giles. Forget her run, which he thought was all right anyway at Newbury. Back on the softer ground. Barry Orr, they've listened.
Yeah, big non-runner here. Obviously, double or bubble out of the race brings it down to just a 7. But like I said, still 3 places on the exchange. If you're betting in the place market, Bounce the Blues. Isabella Giles, actually your favourite now at 3.55, 4.2 Bounce the Blues, Oksana 5.8, Moa Moore is 6.0, and that's been the real gamble in the race. Was as big as 14 and 16 on the exchange. It was a 12-1 chance at one stage into 5-1 now on the sports book for Ben Curtis. But what I'm going to do, I was going to lay the top 3 in the betting. Obviously, double or bubble's a non-runner now. I'm going to lay the 2. I'm going to Dutch lay both Bounce the Blues and Isabella Giles. I think she could be plenty keen sometimes, Isabella Giles. I'm happy to see I can lay her at 3.4 or 3.35. Going to take 25 quid out of her. I'm going to take 25 quid out of Bounce the Blues. That's beaten at 5-2, at 1.70 in Newmarket, and in Donny at 3.55. So hasn't managed to win for his new connection since they got him from Ireland, from Johnny Frains. And I think he's worth opposing as well. So going to lay the both of them at 3-1 and 5-2. Yeah, so we're getting them nearly at even money.
Okay, Barry Orr taking on the top 2 in the market in the Chartwell. Okay, coming up at 3.25. Got around about 6-7 minutes to react to that trade. I like Bounce the Blues here. I thought that she was soft ground might be the key to her. I think that now that Andrew Balding's had a winter with her, he can probably get the best out of her. I thought she needed it at Doncaster against the boys last time. And I said to myself after we covered that race on Lincoln Day, be with her next time out. Like her draw in 7. Oshie Murphy, Andrew Balding will do for me. James Millman.
Yeah, interesting race. Whoever grabs that stance rail is going to have a big advantage. So obviously automatically stall 8, race Beckett's filly, Maya Moore. I think it's going to be in a plum draw. But I don't think she'll lead. I think one will come across, and that might be Archie Watson's Parents' Prayer.
Yeah, looking for a big race double.
Fitting well, ran a cracker at Nace, made the running at Nace under Oceanor. Palmer running from stall 4. If he can get out and across to the rail, what's she at the moment? 12.6. I think she'll trade much shorter than that, and I think she's got a cracking each-way chance in her own right, but I think the race will really suit her and give her every chance.
We're looking for the 3-place market then on the exchange. Graeme, Rodway.
I like Bounce the Blues. I fancied her that day at Doncaster, and we were doing this show, and I do remember us saying that she definitely needed the run.
That's when we couldn't tell what was going on with the camera, wasn't it?
So it was a weird one, wasn't it? I think it was very windy, so they had a car, didn't they, down at the side?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, you're being very diplomatic for you today.
But Isabella Giles is my horse to follow for this year. You know, you always get these emails from people saying, well, what is your horse to follow for the year, Graeme? I said Isabella Giles because I just think that she is a speedy type of horse. I know that she is a bit buzzy. Barry is right on that score. But I think that Clive Cox will harness that. He's very good with this type of horse, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's super with this type of horse, and I thought she shaped well enough on her debut. She was behind Alcohol Free in the Fred Darling.
She's a pace angle as well, isn't she?
Definitely a pace angle, drawn 6. She likes soft ground. I like Bounce the Blues, but I just think Isabella Giles has got the potential to be a Group 1 filly.
Well, they're rated exactly the same, and there's £7 between them. To give you a bit of historical context, actually, fun enough, just 3 3-year-olds have won this in the last couple of years. It's a shame that that Chris Wall's filly is out, isn't it? A double bubble. Obviously, the Ground Flags, Mix and Mingle, her half-sister won this race. I want to see how good she is.
Is the draw advantage still as big as it used to be on the stands rail?
Let's come to James with this.
It's the first one of the year on the turf track, so you're never entirely sure because Sandown, you always wanted to be right on that far side rail, but Andrew Cooper, the clerk there, has deliberately tried to negate it and make it fair across the track. Lingfield, it can be so strong.
They've done just about everything they can
They
to try
tried
to stop
to
it,
put
haven't
the
they?
rail out.
Yeah.
It looks like it's at full width. It's the first one of the
You
season.
know why it's called a Golden Highway? There's a chalk road, which is basically historically there.
Okay.
I remember Lingfield was the one track as a young roving reporter that I used to get sent out to in the early days, and I can remember that all the sages used to tell me about it. And there's a chalk road. They've tried everything they can to move it away from that chalk road. It's gone so far towards the other side, but still, it seems to be a massive advantage.
And you've just got to be patient and hope a gap comes, because you've got to be pretty good to come off the rail and go too wide.
So ideal ride on the straight track at Lingfield. Top three?
Top three. You can be in the box seat and just hope that the leader drifts off. But if you can get the front and get it easy, you've got a huge advantage, and you can keep going for a bit of place money as well, generally.
Now, since you've left the weighing room, and now I know that you weren't maybe a big one for the Jocks Turn because you rode for your father, you know what I mean? And you sort of kept it in-house a little bit. But are you one, since you've left, have you agreed that jockeys can be lemmings?
Oh, for sure. But then again, it's what the trainer gives them instructions. So we had a filly win race at Lingfield a couple of years ago. Dave's girl, the kid in the yard rode it. And I said to him, whatever you do, go to stand side rail. 6 senior jockeys, they just kept straight line, went at the centre.
Yeah.
Little Ollie, you went across to the stands rail.
I remember that.
And she bolted up. Now, she was a nice horse, but she wasn't well handicapped. Ollie wasn't the best rider in the world. But I said to him, you've got to get on that stands rail. And he didn't tell any of the other jockeys. He just kept quiet. And away he went across. That's huge, but in this kind of race, and especially with the round track, they've actually come nearly right across anyway.
They will do.
It's not going to be one they're going to go in the middle. But everyone knows if you're in behind, you've got to be patient and you've got to hope the gap opens.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, and that's hard.
It's remarkable how many times I've backed a horse thinking it's certain to get the stands rail at, from a high draw at Lingfield, and the jockey just doesn't really fancy it. They go about 2 or 3 off, and the horse, the rag will go up the inside and win. You must see that all the time. We've got the Victoria Cup coming up. We think high draw is where you want to be historically, but is it where the jockeys want to go? Is where the pace is?
Yeah, I mean,
really know.
I mean, obviously, it's different. It's such a different perspective for you and I than it is for James, who's ridden in races, because we will sit there watching races, knowing what we know from certain advantages on the track, that we think we want to be there, we want to be here, we want to be there. We can't understand, as having never ridden in a race, why that jockey isn't there. But there could be any number of reasons. Joel might not be good enough to get in that situation for a start. But there's no doubt about it. At Lingfield, you've always traditionally, like you say, wanted to be out in front on the stand side rail, and Isabella Giles is drawn 6, wheel front run.
So for those of you that are thinking, what on earth are they talking about? High numbers at Lingfield on the straight turf track. That's where you want to be. Okay, let's get a social up. Who's coming up on the screen? We have got Tiernan Murray comes on Hubor each way. Should we talk about Hubor? Kevin Ryan, first time blinkers. Ryan Moore, Lavender's Blue, of course, who didn't harm that form whatsoever when next seen on Guineas weekend. Interesting. Hubor, any love for that?
Well, headgear, Ryan Moore, dropping trip. That screams very positive tactics if you can get her out and across from stall 5, which would give her a little bit of shout. Isabella Giles does go handy, but can be keen. So it's going to be interesting. I think in a few of the races, she's had an easy lead because no one else wanted to go on. Will William want to take a little bit of a lead to try and get the settle a bit better?
Ryan Moore, Kevin Ryan is not an association.
No, I actually read Ryan Moore's blog on the Betfair website, and he seemed to be sort of, I thought, fairly keen on a horse for such a big price.
Ex-Shadwell horse, and at the late hand down at Tomb, of course, just a second run for Kevin. Kevin thinks, blinkers on, this will be our black type opportunity. Good luck. I just tried to crunch the numbers and see what Kevin Ryan and Ryan Moore have done together in the past. If my database is right, I shall tell you about that in a couple of minutes' time. We've got, of course, this is a race historically where you do see a foreign raider, don't you? And we've got Axios. Is that how I say the name? Axana, sorry. And she is interesting. She's got Group 2 form in Germany. And Andres Verlo, who's won pretty much everything everywhere, goes to the services of Jason Watson. We're looking at her start. I wonder whether they're thinking of the Duke of Cambridge with this horse. You tend to get foreign raiders dipping their toe in the water here, and if it goes well, they tend to go to Royal Ascot. That could be one. What about Myrta Moore as well? Mia Moore, however we say, for the team of Rafe Beckett, having a great day with Ben Curtis on.
Well, will be the one that will be closest to the stands rail from stall 8. Gets all the allowances. Bit to find on the ratings, but that was a cracking effort at Newmarket on heavy ground at the back end last year.
Okay.
Favourite being smashed up here, Dave. 2.82 now. Isabella Giles really strong at the head of the market.
Okay, they were hoping to get her to the Guineas, weren't they? But that run in the Fred Darling at Newbury last month told them perhaps we should be going down a different route. I have to say, I looked into her 2-year-old form. I wasn't that inspired. We'll find out. 14%, by the way, Kevin Ryan and Ryan Moore together. They're off and running then. And yes, the B-line, we were expecting it. Ben Curtis, I tell you what, I'm surprised they haven't all done it, but Ben Curtis from stall 8 on Myanmar straight to that stands rail. Let me tell you, Rafe Beckett definitely gives the instructions. who's up there as well? Isabel Giles, we were there. Bounce the Blues, got a nice sit on the inside, but will Oisin Murphy have to sweat and wait? Habor's up there. The German filly as well, Exana, wanting a piece of it. On the outside, we've got Juska for Henry Candy. And the last one I've not mentioned must be, of course, Parents' Prayer, who we thought was going to be up there, James Millman. They're all concertinaed around about the halfway stage.
You're going to be very happy to be Ben Curtis's place on the rail, not done a great deal to get to the front. Will she stay?
Will she stay? That is the question mark. Another 3-year-old in the pack. Upsize Isabella Giles is just being niggled, as is the German filly. Juska really catching the eye, racing widest of all. I think we can say Habor is going to fall out the back of the telly. Will Bouncing the Blues get a run?
The Blues are going well. If she can just get a run here, Dave, you think you might be in. I think Isabella Giles just hit the front now, would you say? It was close.
This is Bouncing the Blues race. If she can get a run, she's going to have to come off the rail. Axana's digging deep. On the outside, Juska's there as well. It's been a little bit disappointing for Oisin Murphy. Murmur on that stands rail is really coming into play now. Isabella Giles not done with. Will this be a German winner? Looks like it's going to be the way. What's this on the outside? Parents' Player as well. Could Archie Watson do it? No. Jason Watson, stall 1 of 8, has prevailed. Racing pretty close to that stands rail, though they still are. Wasn't she game? 2 furlongs out. She stuck her head to the front. Despite slightly awkward head carriage, just kept going. I bet you any money they'll be taking a trip to Royal Ascot next with Axana. Only 4-1 Barrier. Did it ever go any bigger in the run?
She had a Betfair SP. She hit a high of 21 in running, would you believe, Dave? Yeah, she had a Betfair SP of 5.7. There's Mia Moore hit a low of 2.46, so just 6-4 in running. Isabella Giles hit a low of 2.08 in running. Bounce the Blues hit a low of 1.89 in running. So plenty of action in running, it has to be said. I think the only horse didn't trade short was Hubor in running. And like you said, he fell out the back of the telly. But Axana, Betfair SP of 5.7. And you gave it a good mention beforehand for Andres Valler.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the guy's pretty much done everything, isn't he? 5-year-old, just coming good. She did have Group 2 form. I look back on that. You don't really know what you're getting abroad, do you? But you trust in the form, and she's just wanted it more, James, I think, isn't she?
She stays a mile, got that stamina. Despite the fact she ran to Germany, there wasn't much soft ground form. She was running on good ground most of the time. But I think that stamina was the key, because Oisin just had nowhere particularly to go.
You called that, in fairness, beforehand. Was that going to be a likely possibility? We knew she was going to sit 3rd or 4th. She was back in trip as well, wasn't she? So, you do want to be near the stands rail. I think the Race Beckett filly has excelled herself purely because she's got that advantage. Because she looked like she was going to stop 2 out, yet she's actually plugged on and he beating a length. Just now, Oisin's got a nice gap in the middle. Unfortunately, the German horse has come across her. Oisin's then switched and the gap actually opened. It's one of those, isn't it?
They weren't going quick enough, really.
You wouldn't blame Oisin for that, though, would you? Because it is literally split-second decision.
His problem was all 5 win a group. Nothing stopped quickly, nothing quickened away, so there was no gaps opening. But the winner stayed well. Jason Watson riding for Axana. He's given it a cracking ride, but stays well.
And Parents' Player has also run well, hasn't it? So, Isabella Giles, your horse to follow. What are we doing with this?
Yeah, I just was a bit disappointed with her there because she didn't really show enough pace to get across, and I thought she would definitely have the pace to lead that thing on the inside, and didn't really finish off her race that well either. So
not grown much.
No,
that would be the worry, I think. Could she be one for later on when it gets, give her a little bit of a mid-season break? I don't know. But when you've got the Beckett horse, who definitely, James is right there, flattered to have been on that rail. But there's £10 between them, according to the handicapper, and less than a length separated them a line. So tricky stuff, but plenty of you, I'm sure, went the way of the German flag. It has been waved by Andreas Wöhler. Bounce the Blues, there's one in there, isn't there? Perhaps back over a mile on the straighter track. Anyway, we say goodbye to Lingfield. What a pleasure that has been to be in leafy Surrey with them. We must go for the biggest field of the day. It is the Victoria Cup. Barry Orr, give us some help.
Yeah, well, at the head of the market is the Hugo Palmer trained, acquitted 8.2, 13.5 Sunset Breeze, symbolised 13, Jamara Bay, with Ray Dawson, 14.5, Chief of Chiefs, 14. It's such a difficult race, isn't it? The horse I came down on was Jamara Bay, second to Nugget, who's rated 110 now last June. Never seemed to run a bad race last season. Is rated 89 now. Ray Dawson claims a valuable 3 as well. It's had a gelding operation, and I think it's going to be okay on the ground. Drawn 11, so we'll go either side, but I'd anticipate they'll come up the far side. So, just going to have 25 quid win on that in the win market, please. And we're going to back it in 6 places as well, please, G-Rod. So happy to be a price taker here at the 14.5, and then in the 6th place market as well. Betfair offering standard 4 places, 5 places, 6, or as many as 7 places here on the Betfair Exchange in the place market, but we're just going to go for the 6. So currently trading at around the 13 to 8 mark in the 6 places, and I think he'll be there or thereabouts. You get a run for your money.
Thank you very much, Barry. Oh, I said we bid farewell to Lingfield, but of course they're giving us a treat, aren't they, on terrestrial television today with a second screen experience as we cover all the terrestrial races for you out there. We're giving you a 4 o'clock at Lingfield. Who knew? I forgot that as well. One more at Ascot as well. 9 race card. We're really packing it in. OK, so Barry going for, well, I think you can say fairly fancied, isn't he, of course, this chap, Jamira. I backed him a couple of times last year. Roger Varian, of course, took out the big race at Lingfield early on. Ray Dawson, he is a rider I've got a lot of time for. How he's claiming £3 still, James, I've got no idea.
Yeah, big season last year, really hit the ground running. And first time on board today, actually, Ray Dawson, so takes off a useful 3. Bearing in mind, 89 did seem to be a little bit of his limit. He's had 3 goes off 89 at the back end of last year and beat every time. The big positive is 2 runs on proper soft ground, are going to be his best. His last run at Newbury was a decent second. He got beaten ahead and he won his maiden on soft at Chepstow. So lots in his favour. But like I said, a handicapper had him about right. He does need to have improved for the winter break.
Exactly. I think that is the angle with him, actually. 3 to 4. There might be more to come. He's a strong traveller, so you can see where Barry's going there. We asked you earlier, you're going for 3 from 3 with your selections at Ascot. And you've stuck 2 in there. Quite right, absolutely. But Ropey Guest, we mentioned earlier at the top of the show. Let's start with him.
Yeah, he's the one each way and Greenside, the old boy. Ropey Guest, everyone knows him. He finally managed to win a race at 130 on, but looking at the RPR, 79, by far his worst performance, and he just scraped home. But if you put him in a strong pace where he can travel, he's probably never going to win a big one, but he's always going to run well for connections. I think he's well treated at 98. Loads of Ascot form. He was, in the Jersey, finished 4th at 33 to 1. And a mark of 98, I think that's fair. Drawn high, I don't mind being drawn high at Ascot. So I think each way, many places you can get is the angle with him, because I don't think he'll win, but I think he could be a good one for your money.
He did win last year, of course, didn't he? When they switched him to Chelmsford, it was the sort of race he had to win. He sort of made fairly hard work of it. You just get the feeling that this is a horse. The bigger the field, the better he gets. And I don't know, I forget that last one in October. I think first time cheap is really, really bad ground. Tactical Affair wasn't for him. I like him as well for the place market. However, I've got Harrison Point on top. Holly Doyle, I'm hoping will take this out. The run on to Peter last time at Wolverhampton. It was a race where he had to be up there. The 2 leaders got away from him. I think that's a strong form race anyway. Don't think just because he's been beaten 3rd at Wolverhampton last time, it wasn't a good race. It was. He ran well enough in the Britannia last year. Do you remember? That was a sensational handicap. Form worked out really, really well. He's got soft ground form. Archie Watson will definitely have been pinpointing this race. 3rd time up for him. Holly Doyle on, drawn where I want him to be. He can track the pace, hopefully pounce. I'm actually really quite hopeful of a big run. And he's a big price on the exchange, as you can see there. Archie Watson's runners have been doing rather well today as also. Rodway, where are we going with this?
Yeah, I like this race, Dave, because my best bet of the day runs in it. I know there's 29 runners in it, but I do fancy Chief of Chiefs quite a bit here each way. I think that he is a massive player because he likes this track. Won the Silver Wokingham here last year, over 6 furlongs. Soft ground won't be any issue to him. And it was a hugely eye-catching run, first time up, in the Camage Trophy when he finished 5th. He was 1 place behind Summergand, I believe, that day. And you and I covered that race on here, and we were all screaming up in arms about the ride in which Summergand got. He was given an awful lot to do that day, and he has since gone on to prove really that maybe he should have been a bit closer, because he's obviously won since at Lingfield, and then he won at Newmarket as well, didn't he? So that form is fairly strong. And Chief of Chiefs ran a very similar race to Summergand. He was out the back, not really in an ideal position, and he travelled well. He just didn't get a very lucky run through, and finished full of running. And I'm absolutely convinced that straight after that race, Charlie Fellows would have gone, well, this Victoria Cup will be absolutely perfect for Chief of Chiefs, given his course form. And I think a high draw here will be the place to be, Dave. I looked at Tom Collins's preview that he wrote on this race, and those drawn 20 and above have got an amazing strike rate of hitting the top four since 2013. I think it was something like 28% of those drawn in stalls 20 to 29 had hit the first four. And is there not this little theory that the grandstand is so big at Ascot that when it rains, it shields the near side rail? And obviously it has rained at Ascot. So has that big grandstand shielded that near side rail, so you want to be high here? I'm hoping that's the case, because Chief of Chiefs is drawn 15. But I've also backed Montecao as well in the race each way.
You've been doing so well so far today, and then you come and go with this harebrained scheme just when you're about to get over the line as a creditable analyst.
It's true. They put a big umbrella up and shield the near side. You've not seen it.
But on Champions Day, they do tend to go far side, don't they? Especially in the sprint and stuff like that. I just think it's often where the pace is, at Ascot in these big races. Talking of which, who are we expecting to lead this field? I mean, Montecao, you mentioned, it's just a mark for him, isn't it? Loves Ascot, got great form there. Hannon's, Jim Crowley, rock solid horse, loads to like. Raising Sand, how many of you want him out there? The old boy, of course, won this when it was last run a couple of years back. But Kiso, I was on Kiso that day. Kiso had to come all the way across and join him. So I think it's the single-figure stalls which has fared so badly in this race. Paul Killian and me were chatting about this yesterday. If Fox Champion in 3, for example, had been higher, that would have been my headline pick. So I'm all taking a flyer. What was the green side angle?
He's just in good form for Henry County. He's 10-year-old. He likes Ascot. Marky Guy takes off 3. I thought, again, high draw 22. Senator Barbie likes the ground.
Young lad that made a name for himself over the winter, didn't he, Marky
Champion, Weather Apprentice.
Yeah, of course. And Stuart Williams had a great time of it and put Marco up all the time. So, let's have a look at what social's like out there, where we're going for this. Justin, 2087. Okay, what happened to 88? History writer each way and ropey guest to be placed. History writer, I'm sure there is a good one in him, but I dismissed him on the fact he's just not shown enough this season. Would I be right?
Well, they've run him in some quite good races, haven't they?
They did. Sandown lover, isn't he, history writer?
This is easier.
Yeah, okay, let's move on. Okay, what have we got? Thomas Irish comes in. Marshall Dan each way. Yeah, of course, we've seen Marshall on this. He's a rock-solid horse. And whenever he doesn't run so well, he tends to bounce back. He's a bit of an Oxo horse, isn't he? And last one coming in. We're whittling through them as the horses are going in. Carl Wilkes joins the show and says, does Eagle Way have any chance? Graeme Rodway?
No.
There you go, nice and easy. He's cut the Bears coming back to what we know, isn't he? Absolutely. So, no. I'm sure I saw a bit of money for him. By the way, you've tipped what Keeley and Tom Segal have tipped, Chief of Chiefs. Everyone seemed to have gone for it.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
You feigned ignorance when you came in for that.
I didn't know that. And it's amazing how many times people come up to you and say, why do all you Racing Post tipsters tip the same horse?
Assume we all sit in the same office. And
I mean, I haven't spoken to Tom or Keels for months.
Really?
Well, I did speak to Kills on Thursday, actually. He was playing golf. But, I haven't spoken to Seagull for a long time.
One you've ignored, Sir Mark's, Sunset Breeze. Double up.
Well fancied, James, as well.
Just beaten behind that one last time, and that would have been quite a short price in the group race earlier. So Sir Mark could have one well treated. Yeah,
he says, but if you read the comments from Sir Mark this morning, he said, Pivotal Mare going to be fine on the ground. Worried about the draw in 29. On the wing, he said. So will he overcome that? But obviously they think there's a big handicap in him going forward. Symbolise as well, of course, bumped into one at Newmarket last time, got Ascot form. That's fancied as well for Probert and Balding. Jumeirah Bay seems solid. River Nymph, that was put up last time, wasn't it, of course? And what's funny?
This is one of those races, isn't it, where I sat there and I was so confident about Chief of Chiefs, and now I'm seeing them all go in the stalls, and there's 29 of them there. Confidence is just starting to dissipate.
Just a ground for him, possibly.
That's what I was thinking, James.
Better on a bit of sounder surface.
Yeah. You want to have had a run in this historically as well. So Acquitted, we've not mentioned him. Do you remember when we did the show last year, Barry, or when he got in the look like he had Palace Pier in trouble at Newcastle? But he's not been plain sailing since, but the market does still like him.
Yeah, it does. He's still clear favourite, 8.0, so he's a 7-1 chance. Next in, then you have Sunset Breeze that you chatted about there, 9.0. He's probably one of the pace angles here is actually Sunset Breeze, along with Jack's Point, but I think they're ready to jump.
The last one is in. Thank you, Barry Orr. Good luck wherever you're playing in the 2021 Victoria Cup. Off and running. Where are they going to go? Oh, unbelievable. They are going to go into how many groups? This is a commentator. He's an absolute nightmare. But Sunset Breeze, despite the fact they're worried about being on the wing, he's the only one that's keeping far side. We do have a group that are going to explore the further side. Marshall Dan is up there with Tinto. I can see that. On the near side, Zip, a horse that ticked a lot of boxes for this. Up there. Harrison Point, my pick is is up there as well. Like to see that. Kyle, he's up there as well. Looking for Fox Champion. He'll be on the far side group, along with Jamira Bate as well. Who's in front? James Millman. Once again, looks to be near side.
Yeah, I think near side in front. Zip's travelling quite nicely. Green side's not too far away. Bigger group tends to be where you want to be.
Don't appear to be going that fast, would you say, Dave?
I'd be very happy with Harrison Point at this point, I can tell you, because he's just off Zip, his old rival. I'm looking for Greenside. He's coming with a nice run. Ropey Guest has really caught my eye. Will he get a run? Fox Champion. Now the far side group are having to go for it as we approach the 2 furlong mark. I'll tell you what, this is going to be take a bit of getting. Look at this on the near side. The horse that won it last, Raising Sand. He's coming into it under Safi Osborne. Who's this that's taken up the running, though? Is it still Zip that's there? Come on, Harrison. Here comes Harrison Point right down the middle. I'll tell you what, could Ollie do this? River Nymph is steaming through for Team Cox. They had a disappointment at Lingfield last time. But I tell you what, anything held up has struggled in this. Look at this Escobar coming through. He knows how to win. River Nymph put up last time. Disappointed, but he's going to take it out, is he? Far side's got a chance as well. Whoa, that was your eagle, of course, G. You're holding your head in your hands. River Nymph steamed through. I'm trying to see who was riding him. It was, of course, Adam Kirby. They've taken it out. Adam Kirby. Do you think, James, he would have ignored the ride on Isabella Giles to ride this?
He couldn't do 8:11.
8:11, it's a weight thing. There you go. All right, and is that the eagle on the far side that you said had no chance? You were sweating.
Yeah, but he didn't win, did he?
I'll tell you what, great run from the Eagle, first time out in the hood. Harrison, I thought, was going to run really, really well. Just hasn't quite got home, has he? Zip's run a blinder, but got an easy time, James, I think.
Got an easy time up front, but it is still hard to make order running at Ascot, especially over 7 furlong or a mile. River Nymph has really done well to pick up strongly because where he was positioned on the track, he's had to make up a lot of ground, principally the 2nd, 3rd and 4th have raced in the centre. Adam Kirby, very strong in the closing stages. Escobar, he's also picked up well.
Ropey Guest? I'll tell you what, Harrison's run a blinder, so I'm happy with Harrison in the point. Ropey Guest got the 6th, didn't he?
I think he's, 5th or 6th he is. Traveled like a dream.
He does what he does.
Couldn't quite pick up well enough, didn't get the gaps, but he's run well. Zip has run a cracker, really. He was the main pace angle, and he's kept going for Laura Pearson. She's an apprentice find. But well done to Clive Cox. Team are in good form again. Yeah,
it was put up. I think Hugh Taylor and a couple of tipping lines put this chap up when he ran in the Lincoln, of course. And it just was no run whatsoever. Prominent on the far side, just weak and looked like he needed the run. But if you kept the faith, I'll tell you what, they'll be coming back for the Hunt Cup now, G, won't they?
Yeah, they have to, don't they? That looks the obvious target for River Nymph. Oh, head in hands there, because I just think that race just didn't pan out for Chief of Chiefs at all.
I'm looking at him now. Yeah, he's staying on, isn't he?
He's really run on very, very strongly, but he didn't get the strong pace that you can usually guarantee in these sorts of races, and they've not come back on him.
He's run a blinder, hasn't he, James? I'll tell you what, Chief of Chiefs coming really strong.
He has, but River Nymph's on his side. He's quickened up better than Chief of Chiefs. I know he would like to run between horses more. Just often, a lot of people don't want to make the run in Ascot because it is so hard. You do get a few relatively falsely run races, and fair play to the winner. Last 3 starts at Ascot's 7 a mile. And this one, it just shows you he's a bit of a specialist here.
Acquitted's come there with his chance, basically, and starting to run out of them, basically. Now, history writer, ran well for you out there, doesn't quite get a pay. That puts him firmly back on track, and David Menuzier will be happy with that going forward. Escobar, Barry called that in the run. He just loves these big races, doesn't he? And the stronger the pace, the better he is, showing that at 7, he's still got a big race in him. We're going to learn a lot, I think, from that Victoria Cup, Barry. When did they pick up on the Nymph?
Hit a high of 55 in running, Dave, for small money. Yeah, Escobar hit a low at 3.7, so around the 11-4 mark. Zip only hit a low of 16 with that late challenge, and Eagle Way hit a low at 2.76. Graeme Rodway will be glad to hear 2.76. So 7-4 for Eagle Way. That's the low he traded.
I'll tell you what, a great shout out there. I can't remember who shouted it.
Was it Thomas?
It was Carl Wilkes that
well
did
done,
it, of course. Wilkesy, absolutely.
Super
First
shout,
time
yeah.
Super shout, absolutely. So the base money is absolutely lovely, I'm sure. Really, really enjoyed that. Good stuff all the way. And we bid farewell to Ascot for the day. Eye catchers are plenty. Oh, no, we don't. No, we don't. I keep forgetting about these 2 races. I do, indeed. We must go back to Lingfield. We've got a bit of time to talk, I suppose, haven't we? Between now and the next at Lingfield. I found the next at Lingfield a real minefield, I have to say. It's a small field, but thought the Fav was the right horse, and we'll get to that in a bit. James, how's the experience thus far?
Yeah, it's been good. It started well. Victoria Cup's always tricky. Good old Ropey Guest. He does what he does every time.
You could say you are 3 from 3 at Ascot. You put him up for the places, mate.
You've probably been a little bit generous there, but he did get the each way money. I'll take it. But yeah, you had to be able to get the 6 places.
Unlike your winners total, you're taking my generosity.
Like I
I
say,
told you I'll curl it round.
I couldn't be more offended when I arrived, and you literally just binned my riding career off completely. It wasn't great, but it wasn't that bad.
I can't have been the only one, James. I can't have been the only one.
You definitely weren't.
No, listen, we've been a bit harsh there. It's really great to have James Millman on. We know you've given a lot of feedback socially as well. Great stuff. This won't be the last time James comes into this studio. You can tell Barry's a fan as well. G-Rod, how's the day been for you? You've been really quite on form, my man.
Deflated a bit.
That has hurt, and it has hurt in particular because I did back him 6 places each way.
And he came.
And he has stormed home to finish 7th.
Oh.
And I just...
The ropey guess was just a solid one for that. you just let yourself down there.
Ropey.
Really.
As they went past the line, I was going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh no!
Okay, I thought you were a bit quiet and a little bit pale as well.
But you know, I'm sure that no one has picked up on this yet. But I actually cannot remember the last winner I tipped on this show now, Dave. And I've been on about the last 3 or 4, and I'm starting to wonder if I'm jinxed on here.
Well, actually, funny enough,
Maybe it's coming next.
Me and Barry had a chat, didn't we, on the phone not that long ago, Barry. You said, should we have a P and an L? You know what I mean? Should we have a percentage done? I think the G-Rod would not want that. But Barry, how's it going so far for charity out there today? You've been trying to look for different angles, haven't you? Of course, we should say this. You're playing for charity. It's just a bit of fun you're doing, Barry. You haven't gone for a fav yet, have you? Will you be doing it before the end of the show? We've got 2 more chances.
It's all about showing the functionality of the exchange. It's not about tipping horses, really. I'm just trying to show people the different aspects to the Betfair Exchange and how it's different to traditional bookmakers. So I think people have to keep that in mind. Sometimes we land on a winner, sometimes we don't. But it's been a stinker today. I'm right up there with G-Rod. I can't remember the last time I tipped a winner on this show. And I get some slagging on Twitter. He's not even on Twitter, so he doesn't have to bear the brunt of that. But and the only thing I got right where we laid the 2, Isabella Giles and Bounce the Blues in that race, we laid the 2 of them, got them beat, and they didn't put that clip out in social. That's the only one they didn't put out. So
I'm
having a mare.
We shall have a word with the team. Don't you worry about that. But listen, I do see that actually. Some people go back and 7 or 8 hours after the show's done and Barry's putting his laser, the one that win, they're like, oh, what a terrible job and all that sort of stuff. Come on out there, people. Okay, so listen, here we are. We've got 2 more races for you. We go until the 4:15 at Ascot. There is a hot pot in that for Roger Charlton and Holly Doyle will be on, won't it? I think. What about some things that have happened so far on the day? Who wins the Derrinstown trial tomorrow at Leopardstown? Jesse Harrington's expecting a big day. Did a feature show with Jessie yesterday. She's an absolute pleasure to talk to. Loads of fancied runners there, and she gives one a nap as well. See if you can find that in your members section. We've got a 4-runner race coming up at Lingfield. It's over the 7.5. Shall we get to it? Come on, let's get it up because we've got 10 minutes to talk about it. I found this really, really tricky. I didn't like it at all. Barry, give me some help.
Yeah, well, I suppose your favourite Turn on the Charm is 2.18. He's really, really short. For a stable that had been in dreadful form up to yesterday, had a winner yesterday. So that's, if you're a supporter of the favourite, that's a big plus for you because stable form had been really poor prior to that. Asad is 5.2 along with Eton College and 6.2 Love Dream. So I'm going to back Asad to lay it back in running and try to green up here. So just another function on the Betfair Exchange that we've shown already today. But 4 out of his last 5 starts, he's traded at 6-4 in Chelmsford. Newcastle he traded at 2.8, which is 7-4, 5-4 on in Chelmsford the time before that, and 6-4 on in Ripon the time before that. And it's always been lower than his SP. Like he traded 6-4 in Chelmsford, he had a Betfair SP of 14, 7-4 in Newcastle, a Betfair SP of 5.4, which is just 9-2. So we're going to have 50 quid on him at 5.2, please, G-Rod. And then we're going to look to lay him back in running. Won't get too greedy here. We'll take maybe 75 quid out of him at around the 6-4 mark, so 2.50. Happy to lay him in running.
Okay, 2.4.
Full agreement. I think that's a cracking way to look at the race because Theodore Laird seems intent on leading this horse. He often goes absolutely flat out on him. And you'd imagine he head straight to that stands rail. Love Dreams is also a handy runner, but he's still 1. Assad's still 2. Eton College, Johnson horses like to go forward, but he tends to miss the break.
He does.
He doesn't want to lead, even though the jockey probably does. And the favourites, which would be a little bit of a concern, they like to drop him in and get a bit of cover. And we saw with O'Sheen in the previous race there, if you are stuck behind horses that aren't going forward, no matter how well you're travelling, you can't make a gap as such. So if you're taking short odds about William Buick's mount, you might, if they all race as a tight group unit on a rail, you might need a bit of luck. But I think that play for Assad back now, lay off and run, and you guarantee yourself a profit.
Nice. I mean, he's a horse that used to be with Simon Crisp. He didn't quite cut the mustard for Simon. And Mick won with him first time. He got clobbered by the handicapper, didn't he, basically? It's been all long road back since then. But it does look like he's coming better. Interesting, isn't it? And as we know, Barry Orr gives us these horses that trade low and they don't do the job. So looks like he might go short at one point. Did you like the Fav here, G?
No, I didn't like the Fav. I thought it was short enough at the prices. I like Eton College. I think that this race might shape up nicely for him. Only 4 runners, but there should be a bit of pace on, as James said. And I've noticed that Ben Curtis is riding a lot this year for Mark Johnson, isn't he? I think he could win the jockey's title. You know, I really do. Mark Johnson trains a lot of winners, and obviously he also has the Carl Burke angle as well, and Carl Burke also the same. I think he's going to be going left, right and centre for winners, Ben, and he's riding superbly well at the moment too.
Did you see him yesterday in the Chester Cup on Hotchfield? Oh, terrible run, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was unlucky, wasn't he? He travelled very well in that race, but
he did a great close-up on ITV of Frankie in their HD slow-mo, and in the wings you could see Ben's face watching Frankie thinking, oh, that should have been me.
I thought it was quite interesting. He was actually at Chester because earlier in the week he'd been everywhere but Chester just to pick up winners. Chelmsford, Kempton. Obviously the all-weather he is the all-weather champion jockey, isn't he? So he has been picking up plenty of winners there. But
it's a really good link, actually, isn't it? We should just talk about this. I can see. I mean, it's nothing not to like about Ben Curtis and Mark Johnson Association, is there?
25 from 109 is the stats for this year. And there's 52 winners. You know, Mark Johnson, especially if we do have a dry summer, will keep running horses. We saw that at Ripon. We had, 3 runner fields, and I think he had 2 in each one nearly. It works well. He's got Franny Norton, Joe Fanning is.
What's our views on the jockey's title this year?
I think Holly myself would be where I'd
Holly?
head in. Because we see on Saturdays, Holly gets 4 or 5 winners because she goes to meeting number 3, meeting number 4. She's got the retainer for the green and gold stars, but they don't have that many horses, so she can sidestep a big meeting as such where you're going to do well to get 1 winner, and that could be the key numerically. I think it's going to be important, and just that Leicester meeting the other day when she had 4 winners and a second, that was kind of setting her stall out. That's where she's going to be on some of the big days.
Holly Doyle then, James Millman punting out for champion jockey. Wouldn't that be absolutely fantastic to see? Barry Oshin, I assume, would have been pretty short in your anti-post markets. Were you doing that sort of thing?
Him and William Buick were 9-4 each of 2 going into it. It was 7-2 Holly Doyle, 9-2 Ben Curtis. So, I'm with G-Rod. I think Ben Curtis, he's a grafter. Like, he tied, there was a triple tie for the apprentice title over here. Himself, Gary Carroll, and Joseph O'Brien back in the day. He just didn't get any of the big jobs over here, that not many of them were going even. And he went to the UK, and he's kind of served his apprenticeship all over again there. And he's made a name for himself. Yeah. He's made the contacts, and I think that's a really good job that he's after getting with Mark Johnson. And he won't be scared to travel, and he'll get plenty of rides, and he'll get plenty of outside rides as well. He's a very good jockey, very underrated. I'd love to just see him cop a really decent horse that brings him to the next level again, because he's a very, very capable jockey and a very nice fellow.
So Ron Priestley, he'll be hoping to get a spin on him, won't he? Of course, looks like the star of Johnson's stable at the moment. Right, we've got some socials coming up. We can see the Ascot result of the Victoria Cup. What comes up then? What we're saying? Hugh Masson. He said G-Rod had that 80-1 shot, went 110 in running and got chinned. And Dave had the mighty Junkanoo. Absolutely. So look, Hugh Masson giving us some love out there. Remembering the one time when we managed to catch the big fish out there. Hugh, you can come back, that's for sure. Great to have you on. And Daniel Richards says, I don't think we'll forget the chip of Dragon Bones over the, what was that? Was it 80, was it 50-1? Barry Orr managed to get one in as well. Dragon Bones. Remember that, Bazza? You absolutely loved it.
I'll never forget it. I'm still hanging on for dear life with it.
I was actually crushed because I got a feeling it was a better BSP than Junkanoo. We're talking, James, about when we put up big prize tips that have gone over with a coherent argument as well.
Coherent argument, excellent.
Not just throwing the darts like, some people do every now and then, you know what I mean? Wait for the tipsters to go.
It gives you the stats, come on, you can't just say he's throwing darts. There might be a little bit of misinformation, but...
Okay, here we go. What have we got coming up? Because Tom Leach says Orton's PL would be funny. Cheers, Leachy, well named. You're all right, though, Tom. Listen, we put up a selection in every race. It's for the crack of it, basically. We're having fun. You want to know what we think. We give our opinions. I tell you, we can't be right in every single race. I'm not even going to give one in this next race at Lingfield.
There's 4 runners. You've got to give one.
Well, no, I thought Eton College might bounce back. I thought they run him a bit quickly at Newmarket last time.
Johnson running a horse quickly.
Well, I just don't.
Really?
I just with him think that he's become a non-typical.
He did a 2-month absence since he run before when he won at Musselburgh.
And he just lost his way, didn't he? And he used to be up there. And you remember that time when he won at Musselburgh? He came from nowhere, G. Do you remember it? And he just stormed through.
He won easily, didn't he?
He did. And I don't think Newmarket was the right race for him. They rushed him a little bit. They've given him another break. They've worked him out. It would be Curtis for me if I was going for one. But Love Dreams is a horse that I've followed all the way. Guess what? Wasn't on last time. So it's as typical as a punt of that, isn't it?
Well, he was 6-5 on.
Right. Well, but still, you've got to try and claw some back. But Jason Watson going for a quick double. And turn on the charm. When I was looking at this race yesterday, I wasn't sure about Fanshawe's if they were quite humming yet. He had a winner yesterday at Ascot called Fresh. I was on that. And just a quick reference to that. I turned away, turned it off, thinking that I'd been redone on the line, and sent a couple of messages along the lines of FF and S. And it came straight back. My phone started buzzing, and I went from being livid to absolutely elated because he'd somehow got it on the nod. And it was one of those angles at Ascot where the sky camera, that lovely slow-mo that they've introduced, where don't you, whether you're before they call it whether you're on or not. You go from that high to low. They were so far apart you couldn't tell. Anyway, James Fanshawe had a winner at Ascot yesterday. I am worried about him finding more trouble.
That's a good
Labour
thing.
MP in Hartlepool.
People could let us know on socials. All the times they thought they'd lost on a bet, and then suddenly they'd won. I remember a couple of times there was once over jumps where the horse was being tailed off, pushed along, and I actually turned the race off. And then, I logged on at 10 o'clock and my account had loads of money in it. I was like, where's that come from? And
Mount Ida, by any
also
chance,
come through and won somehow. And there was also, do you remember that race a few years ago at Sandown where they called the result at the wrong winning post?
Oh, yes.
Third wind. So I thought I'd lost because they called the photo, and I was actually on third wind, and then they changed the result.
The EBF final, wasn't it? Sandown, yeah.
So there's a couple of weird ones for you.
The greatest game of all, isn't it? There you go. So listen, we'd love to have fun. We'd love to hear from you out there. It's been a great afternoon. It's great to be back with you. What do we got next weekend? It's Lockinge, isn't it? Of course. Who wins the Lockinge? Let us know before the end of the show. Palace Pier looks like he's got it, doesn't he? But there are a couple of up and coming horses. Hoping to speak to William Haggis about My Oberon, for example. I don't know. Ballydoyle, they lacking a miler this year? I'd have thought, how good was Armoury yesterday? Let's switch to that.
Yeah, good.
At Chester. Have we enjoyed having Chester back?
Yeah, love Chester, don't you? It's one of my favourite tracks.
Marmite track, I think one of the biggest. James is shaking his head.
Not to ride.
I hated riding around Chester.
Oh, man, okay.
I deliberately put the entry book and put a big cross.
You hate the turns.
It's you've got to be handy, and everyone obviously wants to be handy. It's not like everyone's dropping out and you can get an easy lead.
Has it always been a front runner's track? I mean,
just the nature of it. I think you can go too hard though, because obviously so many want it to be handy. Yeah. But as a jockey, you've got to be real good gate speed. Freya Norton, he's just exceptional around there.
We've seen some really good performances there this week. Obviously, Armoury was one. He looks like he'll now go for the Prince of Wales, doesn't he? And this was also might just have won in Australia when he went down there. I think they certainly, maybe tactics might have been a thing there, but he's finally delivering, isn't he? He was chasing the backside of some very, very good juveniles.
Yeah, he was in Group 1 company, wasn't he, last year? I think he finished behind Magical in the Irish Champion, was it? And then he went down to Australia, finished second in the Cox Plate.
Yeah.
So
got beaten by his ex-stablemate, didn't he, of course?
Yeah, he'll be one of their big hopes for Group 1s this year, won't he?
Yeah, and what about Japan came back, finally put his flag in the ground and said, here I am. Was that going to be his one win? True shame ran a blind doing that, didn't it?
Yeah.
All in at Lingfield, should say as well.
Here we go.
Well, I'll let the guys think about that. Let us know your Chester highlight. I'm going to go to Barry on that as well because I know he's looking forward to going back to Rudy. But they are off, would you believe it, at Lingfield for the 4 o'clock. 2 extra races we're giving you here. Loving this on the terrestrial scenes. It looks like Assad, they've been told, Theodore lad, James Millman, don't go so hard, man. The anchor is down.
Yeah, and don't let Love Dreams come across you. I think he's going to be all right. But Theo is out of control now.
Oh, and I'll tell you what.
Doing exactly
what.
Jason Watson's like, I shall have the rail. Thank you very
They're
much.
going
Turn on the
fast here.
charm.
They're going fast. The favourite's hard out in third, is he?
I don't know. I think they're just where they want to be on that. Eton College is the one that the harder they go, he'll be coming.
I'm hoping they've gone hard anyway.
Well, Eton College is around about 4 off, and he's being scrubbed along, so they must be going some sort of pace. We're at the 4 furlong mark, and they are
Travelling
dueling
now, isn't he?
Turn on the charm. I guess it's just perfect, James, isn't it? This is what you want.
They've gone off a little bit too hard, but he isn't travelling that well, and Eton College really not enjoying life at the minute. They're going to stop at some point.
James is getting lots of weight here as well, isn't it? So he's on the bridle, Assad. What will he find? Barry says historically not a great deal. Now Turn on the charm. William Buick goes on the outside. This is all hands and heels stuff, isn't it?
Oh, this is Eton College, isn't it?
Eton College is doing back patchy profile. I mean, this is Fav's just won this, isn't it? And Assad, I'm sure he has gone short. We'll go to Barry for the story of the market. See, Eton College is coming back all too late in the day. Love Dreams. Tell you what, he stopped slightly in front this, James, isn't it?
He's probably hit the front too soon, but he went off far too fast. He's going to do enough to hold on, but he's not looking particularly enthusiastic.
That's interesting. That's interesting. I mean, a horse that's taking it up a furlong and a half out. No, I mean, for a horseman to look at that. Listen, the Fav has won. William Buick gets him over the line. It all went plain sailing, you'll be probably thinking out there. Before we get a word on that with James and exactly what sort of attitude the horse has shown despite winning, what did he do, Barry, in the market?
Yeah, Turn on the charm. He traded at a high of 3.05 in running. He's a Betfair SP at 2.28. Assad traded at a low of, not too low, because it didn't get an uncontested lead. I thought if he had just got the uncontested lead, he would have traded much shorter. 3.70, Assad, 11-4. Eton College traded at lower. Eton College traded at 3.50, which is 5-2. And Love Dreams traded at 3.4. Can you believe that?
Well, I think I suppose he was getting weight from everything, but well done, Barry. You suggested that Assad would be the one to lay, and I guess he did what he does, Assad, Barry, didn't he?
Yeah, we didn't get matched, unfortunately. I got a bit greedy, Dave. Yeah, put it in to lay it back at 6-4. Just the greed always gets the better of me. But if he had got an uncontested lead, I think we would have got him shorter.
For your in-round and punters, you could see that Theo was out of control and desperately trying to get him back. He knew he was going too fast, and like I say, the winner's Turn on the charm. He's probably one that doesn't want to be produced quite late, and nothing William Buick could do because they stopped so quick, those two in front, and he kind of got him going.
You didn't like his attitude? Am I right in thinking that?
Not that I didn't like it. It just meant that you've got to be a little bit more patient with him.
But okay, so this strikes to me as a horse, and maybe it's just a Fanshawe and these colours, but I'm thinking that they're probably thinking of something like a Victoria Cup in time for this horse. A strong gallop, a fresh that won the 6 furlong handicap yesterday at Ascot. These horses just travel so well, don't they? The stronger the pace, I think, with the Fanshawe horses.
He hates making a run in. You very rarely ever see a Fanshawe horse on the front end of the pace. This one's been held up and
that's a good shout.
Really stayed on strongly in the closing stage at Kent and Nottingham. He's actually helped him because he's basically putting up handicapper. Can't do a great deal with him because the pace has collapsed, yet he could have won that by 7-8 lengths.
He was the top, absolutely.
On a normal horse, and that would have probably stopped him winning a big handicap. So for the connections, they'll be delighted because that race could have actually fallen apart pretty badly for him.
Could this be an Ascot horse down the line, G? Sort of like a wait, stiff finish, off you go?
I didn't think he looked that good there. Did you, Dave?
Do you think it was just all perfectly teed up for him move on?
I thought he made quite hard work of it.
He was off the bridle a bit, wasn't he, early on?
Off the bridle, sort of struggling to go that pace, and then the front two stopped, and he came through, and then when he was in front, he didn't do much, did he? He was sort of...
He's only led final 110 yards the last twice when he's won, and he's hit the front 1.5 out.
He's just putting himself up.
Because Love Dreams is tired. He's actually closing. It's not a... Looking at him on our screens now in the paddock after.
And that is another boost for Astro King, of course, who Barry fancies in the Hunt Cup. Of course, finished 4th to him on his return at Nottingham. So it's boosting all along. The Hunt Cup becoming a very topical race here on Racing Post Live. Talking of Hunt Cup, should we go back to Ascot then for the final race of the day? 9 minutes away from a handicap. It's going to be interesting stuff here. And Lugnini, I have to say, I looked at this earlier, Barry, back on soft ground, ran well on terrain that was too lively for him last time.
Yeah, he's been well punted as well, Dave. Before the Rule 4s even, he was well punted. He's ahead of the market now, 3.25. 4 non-runners here, unfortunately, but he's currently 3.30, now 5.9 Group 1 power. Nuts St. George, 7.2. Aced at 9.8 and 12.5 bar. This is probably my main fancy of the day. It's the one that I've backed myself. Group 1 power I fancy, and I thought that was a good run last day. He made all on good ground in the Metropolitan Handicap in Epsom. Now he got a bit of a freebie up front. I'm hoping he might get the same this time round. That was off the back of a break at over 250 days, and he had been gelded as well. He never seems to run a bad race, this horse. He's 6 runs. He's won 3 of them. It's a 50% strike rate. It's not bad for any horse, is it really? And I just thought, I rated 86. I thought there was still plenty of fat in that mark for him. So Group 1 power for me. Just a straight win, 50 quid on it, please. 6.0. I'm happy to be a price taker here as opposed to being a price maker and look for someone to lay it at 6.2. So 6.0, Group 1 power, 50 quid win.
Very interesting. Of course, he played it when he made the frame, didn't he, behind Hookham at the Royal meeting last year on his sole run. He was lightly raced. I would say the wheels fell off afterwards. I mean, he only run once after that. He probably had a problem that day, 5th or 6th on his final run of 2020. Gelded since, and he beat the well-fancied horse, didn't he, last time, as Barry said in the Great Met. Interesting. Stall 10. Sylvester de Souza put me off a little bit, if I'm honest. There is this saying out there, not quite as harebrained as a big stand, making the stand side quicker, that SDS just doesn't ride the round course at Ascot. It's something that pace-wise he just doesn't judge. I'm trying to get the stats up now to back it up. But you remember last year at Royal Ascot, I think that was one of the rides that went sort of to plan for him. Of course, he won on the sprint track on Art Power. But apart from that, it wasn't a meeting that Sylvester will look too fondly back on, I'd imagine. Is that right, do you think, G, or am I just talking absolute tosh?
Oh, it's not something that I've noticed myself, but when he was a young jockey, Sylvester de Souza, he was incredibly good in sprint races. Like his
very
figures
positive.
were...
But Brazilian background, lots of gate speed is necessary, and it does mean that sometimes when you're on a stayer and you get them really motivated out of the gates, they can just race a bit too keenly in your hands sometimes.
Isn't that interesting? That's very
Stiff
interesting.
finish at Ascot as well.
I hadn't thought about that. Sylvester's breeding ground, if you like.
Like when you're riding Hong Kong, which Sylvester again does very, very well at, it is all about gate speed, because if you miss it, you're not going to get involved. Whereas some of our middle distance horses, you want them kind of behind the bridle, especially as
They
such.
tend to get lit up a bit for him on the round course.
Sometimes they do, and the round course is tricky. I didn't have that many rides around it, but you're on the bend quite a way, and it's for a Grade 1 track, it's a very short finishing straight, so you don't want to be too far away. But if you're making your ground out wide too soon, you end up covering a lot of ground. We saw Ross O'Ryan in the earlier race in the race back at Philly. That's the perfect way to ride Ascot in the round.
Gate speed could be a good thing here, though, couldn't it?
Who?
Gate speed could be a good thing here for Sylvester, because obviously
he needs it.
He's drawn 10, so he's going to have to get
without
out.
a fight, who Andrea Azzani rode in the Buckhounds. We saw him do something similar, didn't we? He had to get across, just let him go, basically. And but I just don't know. I'm trying to get the stats up for Sylvester and Ascot, but
it wasn't his normal running style making all. He obviously worked a treat last time at Epsom, but it was a day when nothing was making up any ground. So you've got to.
You can see where Barry's coming from, though, can't you? A mark of 86 for a horse that's named, as his pedigree. They don't mess around with these horses, you know what I mean, in their sales either. He could still be better than 86.
Yeah. When I was asked to send my selections through, I didn't know we were actually covering this race, but I would have sent...
I'm not the only one, then.
so yeah, you as well. So I didn't actually see it.
I would say you're in good company.
I didn't see it on the running order, so I would have sent over Group 1 power as a selection had I done. I have backed Group 1 power myself, like Barry, and I'm quite hopeful that he's going to prove a bit better than this class. You have done your best to put me off, though, there, Dave.
My very best, and I'm trying to get those stats up, and they're taking age. I need to put another penny in the meter on the database. James Millman, final race. You are nearly... Shall we? I think we can say you're 3 from 3 at Ascot.
I'll take it. I'll take the 3
Take it,
from 3. David Menissier, fantastic trainer. He's going to be one of the trainers on the up. His strings expanded.
David Menissier.
Seems to be 3 from 9, I think, the last fortnight, so they're starting to run a bit of form. Took a while to get the first win on the ball.
History right around well.
Yes, he did at a big price. This one, we've come up against him a few times. He's a tough, progressive handicapper. He's perhaps not as progressive what Group 1 power could be, but he loves the ground. His last run, he was 3rd in the November handicap at 80 to 1. Cracking effort. That was off the same marker today as 88. He won first time out last year, so he goes well fresh. Lots in his favour. Still 2. I just hope he doesn't get too far behind. Ross O'Ryan, we saw him to good effect earlier on in the day. I'd like him in 4th or 5th place, just behind the leaders.
He loves the ground as well, doesn't he? I think we can say that. A lot of Menissier's horses tend to like cut underfoot. Not really sure why. I can't wait to see the filly coming back out, by the way. His Group 1 that he had on Champions Day.
Very interesting, this horse trained by Camilla Poulton.
Yes.
Seeing that she trains at Lewes in East Sussex,
That's
which we were talking
John
about
Gosling
earlier,
era.
which is where my cousin's dad used to.
Another descendant.
Yeah, so maybe Camilla Poulton is training out of the same base. Who knows?
What's that programme that they do with the Who Do You Think You Are, or on BBC with the family trees? Did you ever see the one with Danny Dyer where he worked out that he was a descendant of the royal line? This is a little bit like what you've done today. That is absolutely fun. I mean, you've married into it, which is absolutely typical. But Camilla Poulton, she is the wife of Jamie Poulton, of course. Matty Batch has got an association with us. With these guys down there.
Andrea Edzeni rides this horse.
Yeah, he's on an absolute crest of a wave, aced it as well, isn't he?
First ride for the yard, by the looks of it.
Oh, that's still the highlight of the day, isn't it? We have a cousin of John Costa in here. And who knew? It was the big Canadian bear that is not Graham's wife, Graeme Rodway himself.
You better hope she's not watching.
I'll tell you what, she's a teaching assistant too, so she's going to be a fear character. I know she's absolutely quite right. I like the Fav here. I think it was a prep run last time on the ground. Just had to get it out probably. If it comes back to its extremely hot form at Newmarket for the back end, it's got a good draw. It's got Holly on the soft ground. I think it's going to be chucked in Lugnini if it comes back to that form.
Attitude looked poor.
Really?
I know the ground was quick. I didn't think it was a great effort.
A task. I want to go back to something that I said when we were in the gallery, when we were coming in. I said I'm a fan of the yard. I used to like Greeley. It was a 5-time winner.
Greeley.
What did you call him?
He's tricky.
That's the word. We'll let you have that. He called it. I said I love Greeley, and he goes a bit of a thinker.
Greeley would need him to stop in front, and he'd look amazing. If you asked him to get the box seat, which is often where you want to be in a race, it's no good to him because it was.
We are seeing a trend here. You are looking at the attitude of horses and people probably.
Yeah, you've got
closely.
When you're riding a horse, it's uncomplicated. It's so much easier because you can stick them in exactly where you want to go. When you're hostage to fortune, if you've got to be on a front runner, you can't have anyone else chasing you up. There's nothing you can do about that. A little bit like Theo Ladd we saw just at Lingfield there.
Yeah.
He was out of control in front. It wasn't his fault because Jason Watson, Love Jeans, was chasing him up. Whereas
Snookered.
You can say it wasn't a great ride, but he was trying his best. You're just a little bit limited with the tactics. Just didn't look very enthusiastic. That was a good race. Welkeniga actually was extremely well handicapped on occasion, but he put his head up and did not try one iota. So
he can be a bit keen, Lugnini, but if you go back to that Kingbrook form in that very valuable, it's the old Rowley Cup, wasn't it? Of course, at Newmarket last October. On that form, I mean, off a £4 lower mark, we gave him a racing post rating of 100 that day. I still think there's a bit more comfort for him, and just from the low draw, I just expect him to be thereabouts. So I thought the Fab would take out the last. Good luck wherever you're playing. They are going in. Barry, a final market update from you, please. Oh, okay. We'll get. Oh, he's back. He's back. He's back.
3.6 Lughini, 5.2 Group 1 Power, 8.4 Nude St George, and 10.5 Bardos.
Okay.
So money for Group 1 Power.
Okay. So listening to you and the bear that is Graeme Gosden. I never say that. Absolutely brilliant. How will he go from stall 10 in Group 1 Power? Good luck if you follow the guys in Louis St George for James Millman, who's had a great day so far at Ascot. Looks like he is going to take his time in midfield. And Sylvester, perhaps unsurprisingly, finds himself.
What were you saying about the draw here, Dave? Was that going to be a problem?
Well, look, he's come from 10. I mean, they've literally not got. I mean, he's just been out. He's been given a complete freebie. And Frontispiece from 13 has managed to get himself up there as well. Now, Frontispiece, talk about attitudes. He looked like he was going to be a worldie a couple of seasons back. Is he going to settle
here, this leader? What
this is what I'm talking about with SDS.
That's the trouble.
He hasn't settled, has he? And I don't know. Listen, it's all about dropping the brodder. Lugnini hasn't settled either, though.
I'm happy.
James might be right about that.
Ross Ryan, perfect place again.
Once again, he's
Third place.
What he wants, James, if you're on Louis St George, is surely them to come across and box him up so he's got a little bit, so he can drop his head a bit, because he's a tad keen, isn't he?
He's a little bit. He's the best of the four. Holly's wanting a little bit of cover on Luganini. Sylvester's got him back now, but he's setting some quite strong fractions for a mile and a half on pretty soft ground.
Pouring it on, isn't he, in front here, Sylvester? I hope he knows what he's doing.
Calling the Wind's got a nice spot for Richard Hughes and Pat Dobbs. He's got a lovely spot from stall 12. Out the back, man of the night, Richard Hannon. The wheels have come off him a little bit. Koeman right out the back. First time cheek pieces for him today. And looking for aced it. He is, of course, out the back for Andrea Azzini. Dropped in from stall 11. Barry, he's dropped the anchor. He's got the freebie. What's Group 1 Power doing in the exchanges?
Yeah, he's into under 3-1 now, 3.8. So 11-4. Your favourite Lughini is 3.15. Newt St. George and 12 bar. Frontispiece is 10.5. He's
I'll
coming in
still
for a bit of
take
support. But they're going to have to go to get the one in front.
He's really pouring this on, isn't
Yeah.
he, Sylvester? Pouring it on.
Absolutely.
Come on, Sylvester.
I'll tell you what, yeah, this is interesting, isn't it? Has he gone too soon? That's the question. What is the market suggesting? The market's saying no.
Come on, Sylvester.
Okay.
Odds on. He's 5-4 on.
I'll tell you
according to
what,
the market.
he's caught them out a little bit. Now, here comes Lugnini and Holly Doyle. She's setting sail.
he got left
Call
here?
the
What's
Wind's
he
the
got
only
left?
other one. Nui St. George looking like he's just needing this first run back. Aced it. He's too far off. Now, this is where we get on the
Linguini,
hill,
your
James,
favourite
isn't
now
it?
in running. Your
Yeah.
favourite's Linguini in running.
He's still not off the bridle, though, this horse.
I think he's going to stop very
Is he
quickly.
going to stop?
Here comes Lugnini then. Oh, Sylvester's thinking, when am I going to go? Hang on, Sylvester, you need to go now, my man, because Holly Doyle is on your coattail.
Stop it, no.
One thing we can say is Call the Wind's going to be third unless he finds an extra gear. Now, here comes Lugnini. Where's this attitude issue? I can't see anything wrong with him whatsoever. He gives him the kitchen sink, does Holly, and Holly takes out the final race of the day. Getting back onto soft ground. Turned out he was well handicapped, but guess what? Sylvester maybe just went a little bit too soon. His horse lost a bit of concentration. Group 1 power second. Call the Wind third. Pretty good form race, I would say. James, would you agree?
Yep, and fair play. It was the fast ground at Ponty rather than is actually a little bit wayward in the finish, but Sylvester's horse too keen and the G-Rod called it a long way out. He was doing a fair bit too early and the exchanges kind of spelled that out for us.
You don't want to be too harsh on Sylvester, do you? But that was a little bit like Harry Skelton at the Cheltenham Festival,
He
wasn't it?
didn't send it though. The
horse
took him and he just stopped trying to fight him and tried to get him into rhythm that way, but the problem was there was just nothing left.
Is he coming back at the finish, this horse? Just watch him. He looks like he should be falling in a hole, G, doesn't he? But he doesn't. I don't know. Does he pick up again?
He's hammered the rest, hasn't he? But the winner has beaten him easily.
I don't think the winner's really kicked on and gone away. I think the winner had a bit
has
more
idled a bit.
in hand if needed. Fair play, they've actually really spread the field out because Newt St. George didn't finish. Frontispiece, who also sat second, he's finished very, very tired. So I think it's strong.
I wonder if it's just downhill, isn't it, into Swinsey Bottom? Is that right from the mile 4 start there at Ascot? I just
Worked out
wonder if
rather
it's
well,
just
that
him up.
Valdkonig form, hasn't it now, of course. A Highway Groves well beating that, he's won. Victory Chime has won as well. Kaleidoscope was second, has since finished second as well. Valdkonig, for your cousins, could they be taking out a Royal Ascot race with him finally? He was a big, big hope as a 3-year-old, lost his way.
Yeah, they could do, couldn't they? He was a big hope, wasn't he?
Get on the phone, that'd be great. We'll find out the plans, that'd be lovely. Barry, let's come to you for a final market update. You must have got really excited there at some point. Surely, I'm sure everyone did, didn't they?
Yeah, he traded 11.8 on. He traded at 1.75. That's the shortest that's the shortest he went at any stage in the race. And there's no big in-running news on the winner. He 5.7, but I think that might have been pre-race when before the reduction factor kicked in.
It's been a pleasure, Barry, having you back on this Saturday. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, fingers crossed. See you next week. Thanks, lads. James, great
you very
addition
much.
to the panel. Some great insight. Thank you very much. Some good calls from yourself, Dave, and G-Rod, always the wizard. Love it.
We'll break our duck soon, Barry. Don't worry.
As I've said before, James, this man pays the bills, so you're coming back.
Always
Great
good.
stuff. James, it has been a pleasure. Have you enjoyed yourself? You don't have to say yes.
It's been good. Good start to the show. Probably not quite.
No,
so good
listen,
at
don't
the
do
end, but
yourself
there we
down.
go.
It's absolutely always the way, and we know people have loved you out there as well. We'll see you back. Thank you very much. Safe journey back to Devon. G-Rod, the cousins, they'll be waiting for you.
They will, and they'll be welcoming me with open arms, I'm sure.
Unlikely. Been great to have you. We'll see you next Saturday. Be Lockinge Day.